It's Plat Chat episode 92 presented by T-Mobile. And I'm here with dpei. I was trying to bring some energy into the show, you know? I'm trying to
just only here with dpei, not anyone else. No.
Well,
no one
okay,
else, huh?
we are here.
No
Yes, of
just
course.
Me and Sideshow.
We're here with other people as well. But Avast, the reason that I said dpei and not you is because dpei is not usually on the show. Whereas at this point, you've become a permanent fixture, like this McCree picture, which I have no idea where it's from, but it's just been here since the beginning. And all the other stuff that's on the set, like the plant, that's been here for a while, hasn't it? That's like you.
Whatever. Okay.
I think welcomed as a guest up until Avast was talking, and then I felt unwelcomed as a guest.
That's my goal here. That's my goal here.
We welcome
to make
you,
everyone
dpei.
feel unwelcome.
I welcome you. I am not a host or anything. I'm just like the person opening the door. You know, welcome into the warmth, dpei. We go. Now Sideshow can take care of you. He can guide you around the house, etc. But I'll be by the door if you need
how's
me.
your week or two? How long has it even been? I guess it's been 2 weeks off, actually, since the Gladiators last played a game, right? Because you guys were in the qualification run towards the June Joust. Must have been like a week and a half or something.
Wouldn't it be like almost 3?
Has it?
I think it's 3
yeah.
because we don't play Hawaii. We have a 1 week break, and then we've had 1 week of practice. So far.
Right,
So
okay.
3 weeks. Yeah.
What have you been keeping yourself busy with? Picking up any new hobbies? Got into knitting?
The breaks are actually great because it's painful because you just have a ton of free time that you're not used to. I got into basketball, so that's cool.
Hey.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be more fashionable as well. Like I bought a watch and sunglasses, and I own 2 pairs of pants
Gladiators
now.
merch. Is that just a plug
2
for
pairs
Gladiators
of
merch?
pants. That's pretty good. That's not bad.
It's one more than I had before. Let me tell you.
Are they actual
bar for
pants
fashionable.
though? Wait, hold up. Is it like shorts you wear at practice? You know, you walk around better. Or is it actual like long pants? I feel like that's an important distinction to make.
Pants.
These days.
Like I'm not talking about like sweats don't count. You know, like I'm talking about like pants I would go out with.
Okay.
And, like
Some chinos, some khakis.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
something nice like
How
that.
many do you have of
just
that?
jeans.
I have like 4 or 5, I think.
4 or
Maybe
5?
more.
Did you just man spread all over?
Yeah, he kind of
podcast?
dropped that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just asserting my dominance here. That's the
Have you been
advantage I get.
doing some squats, doing some quad raises?
All of your cams are
Josh.
so small, you know, because you're not here in person. Whereas me, I can spread. I can be as far and wide as I possibly like. No, thank you for coming on the show, man. It's going to be fun to get your perspective because, like I said last week, this is a bit of a different show because we're slap bang in the middle of the season. If you don't count the playoffs, but who does? This episode was a bit more of like a looking at the half of the season that's already gone and then making some predictions or looking at the awards and seeing who are front runners, that kind of stuff to begin with. But I wanted to kick things off by asking you just about the Gladiators season so far. Sorry? Oh, sorry, you are absolutely right. It slipped my mind completely. And for that, actually, talking about what dpei was up to, I want to know what Jonathan was up to recently.
Wait, I mean, I was just on a vacation, Sideshow.
Where were
What do
you?
you mean?
Where were you?
I was in Maine, actually. Close to Massachusetts, where Avast. Did you actually? You never lived in Boston, did you?
No, I went to Boston, but I never actually lived in Boston. I never got to experience that beautiful city of brotherly love. I think that's Philly, not Boston.
Yeah,
Yes.
Boston.
Yes. But that area of the country is really pretty. So I went there for a week with my girlfriend. Went to Maine. Okay, Boston is in Massachusetts, but I've already mixed them up twice, so I'm not going to do that again. But Maine, it's lovely, Josh. It really is. And I do recommend you to go. You know, I've heard some stories about the outdoors don't like you. You know, you get some irritations while you're out there. You know, the animals don't agree with you.
Whoa.
Irritations.
When you put it like that.
Describe it as irritations, like he's allergic to sunlight, like one of those tragic Victorian children.
Just agoraphobic, yeah.
Maybe.
No.
I'm just saying nature doesn't agree with Josh. So
I had some bug bites. I had a lot of bug bites because we were discussing earlier before the show what blood type everybody was because Avast is very interested. He apparently is the universal donor. Is that what it is?
No, I'm the recipient. I'm greedy.
He's selfish.
I'm greedy.
all the blood.
Right. The universal recipient. But my blood type is just tasty rather than anything else. I just love it.
Yes, if you're O blood type, mosquitoes like that.
And I was gonna tell my story now about how I was out in the wild, and I started feeling bad mid-sentence because I was like, Josh can't, enjoy it as much because he gets bug bites everywhere. I don't know what's went into me. I'm out of control.
Okay.
But yeah, the nature was lovely. That's all I'm saying. Get away from LA. I got away from computers, got away from all the electronics and stuff. Although, I still had my phone, etc. Didn't browse it as much, didn't play games, that stuff. But, just mountains, hiking. And we actually went on a ship. We actually went on a ship. So we got tickets, and they have these sailboats, and they're made out of wood. They look real old. Like you go on this boat, and it's exciting because it's an old-fashioned boat, and they invite 25, 30 tickets or something on this single boat. You can pay for drinks. The drinks were cheap, and you just go out for 2-3 hours on this Atlantic Ocean, and you just take a trip. It was slightly windy, so, you get a nice gust, the sea salt washing over you, and you're like, I'm out and about doing things, and it's quite spectacular. But
that's not bad.
I mean, sorry,
that's not bad. That sounds like quite the trip.
No, yeah, I recommend it. 10 out of 10. Maine is really good. 10 out of 10. So we were out on this trip. I mean, it takes 3 hours, right? Because you go out, and then something doesn't go as planned, and the captain's like, oh boy, here we go, and they yell a bunch of words like, I don't know, starboard, and it just turn the ship, and a bunch of shit. But so it took 3 hours. We're out and about. But I was out on this ocean. And suddenly, I had read a tweet from you that same day that you were playing Overwatch with the Plat Chat guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yep.
And I figured I haven't seen Josh do that in so long. I haven't seen him play Overwatch with the Plat Chat guys in so long. So it just struck me as I was out and about on the Atlantic Sea. I was drinking a dark and stormy that was actually quite cheap and really good. So credit to the crew on the ship for that one. This thought struck me, and as we were out on the Atlantic Ocean, I pulled up my phone, and I swear to you, true story, I still had T-Mobile 5G while out on the Atlantic Ocean, okay? None of that, one bar, and it says 3 letters, it says HTF or something, and it doesn't really work. I had T-Mobile 5G while out on the waves, having the time of a life with a dark and stormy, the waves crashing onto the boat, and we could have fished. There were a great white shark around you. I'm not kidding. There's great white sharks around us. We were that far out, and I still had T-Mobile 5G on this lovely phone by this lovely provider. And I could tune into your Twitch stream and check how much SR you had lost. And it was, it was incredible. That just made my day. T-Mobile 5G works at sea. How many providers does that? Do the read, Josh. I don't have the text. Yeah, say the things.
I can't tell you how many providers work at sea, but what I can tell you is that T-Mobile wants to be the best in the world at connecting people to their world, their Earth, and sometimes their oceans. And with so much of our lives these days happening through a wireless connection, nothing but the best will do. We rely on wireless to do almost everything in life, from big deals to everyday connections to being out on the ocean looking at our friends' Twitch streams. So if you can't rely on your network, it can have big consequences. What would have happened if that ship capsized and they didn't have T-Mobile? Huh? What would have happened? Probably nothing.
They probably would have been eaten by the great white sharks that were circling hungrily.
Mm-hmm. It sounded like they were circling, yeah.
That's why T-Mobile, well, that isn't specifically why, but as an unrelated but also extra sentence, T-Mobile is the largest and fastest 5G network in America, and sometimes slightly off the coast of America. With coverage and speed like this, why wouldn't you go with the best around? Huh?
It doesn't have to be out of gold, but you can watch Twitch streams at sea. I'm saying at sea, not by the shore. It was not the shore, Josh. It's not slight out of sea. I was at sea. I was on the Atlantic Ocean.
We've done the ad read. You put in the work. Well done. Well done.
I think Did you get the international roaming charges? Because you were so far at sea.
Because you would have been in international waters.
Well, no.
I assume you weren't actually in international waters, though. You must have still been in the American-owned waters.
I guess so.
Yeah, you didn't have your oceanography map with you?
Yeah, it's not like World of Warcraft where you press a button and it says which zone you're in. I didn't know. There was just water everywhere. And I was okay,
yeah. No, that's fair enough. That is fair enough. So. Okay, like I said, this is going to be a mid-season review. And so the first thing that I wanted to get into after our delightful little escapade, which I'm assuming that was a true story, Jonathan, right?
Yes, it was a true story.
Right, most of mine are not. So there you go. That's a different one. I wanted to check in with David as well. The season so far for the Gladiators, it has been, I want to say up and down, but it hasn't really. It started a little bit lackluster compared to expectations, and then you guys did very well in the June Joust. But perhaps, I'm just going to put these words in your mouth, perhaps some people might not have been as... perhaps those, like, the successes of the regular portion of the June Joust didn't actually end up translating into making it to Hawaii, that kind of stuff. So it's not all been perfect just yet for Gladiators. How do you view the first half of the season for your team?
Yeah, I think really you look at it and we went 0-2 and then we went 6-0 from that point. So down and then up. I think the 0-2 was we thought we were feeling really confident going into that first week, but at the same time we had a lot of rookie players. I think not a lot, but enough rookie players. I think it was really clear to us internally that nerves were the problem. Like we did not play even like in the Dallas match recently, we played our normal selves and Dallas just beat us straight up. But in the Shock and the Dallas matches, it was like very clear, like mentally we weren't all there. So that was like the thing that we had to improve on the next, however many weeks. That was my main focus for the June Joust specifically. And I feel like we have achieved that goal from that point because we identified that as like a big problem. I think, teams had us highly rated from Scrimbucks, and I would say just anecdotally that seemed accurate, but Scrimbucks are exactly that. They're Scrimbucks. They're not match bucks. So I think, yeah, I mean, Dallas is a team that like actually performs extreme, like at least 25% better in matches compared to scrims. Whereas we, like, at least compared to our results at that time, we were doing like 25% worse essentially. So I think we fixed those problems, and Melee, I don't think we got to show off that we were like actually a good team on that meta. Just missing out by one map differential. Fucking if Boston just won one map versus Fuel, if they just won Havana, that was
Don't
really
ask
winnable.
Too much. Don't ask too much, David.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we could have done well in that tournament. But I think it's also unfortunate we played against Dallas in the June Joust tournament. I think we were the second best team in North America, but I think they were the best for sure. So, I mean, definitely the best for sure. I think that's proven for sure. So, I think it's been up and down. I'm positive. I feel very confident going into the second half. I would tell you otherwise if I wasn't feeling confident, I think, but I feel really confident going into the second half that you're going to see a new Gladiators, really. So, I'm happy with our team's progress thus far this year, but it hasn't been perfect.
Avast, Jonathan, what do you think about the claim that Gladiators were the second best in the June Joust? Because it was something that I was pondering myself from the North American region, let's be clear as well, because, Shanghai, they go on and end up winning
absolutely.
it. But when we're talking about the North American region, the Gladiators were the one team. I predicted the Gladiators in that game against Dallas, actually, because I thought that you guys had shown enough ability with both ends of the meta spectrum that you were going to be able to take the win. And I was impressed by the win, at least when it came to Hollywood. I mean, getting Mirror some playtime as well it's been actually, that seems to have been a challenge for you guys. But I'll get onto that in just a moment. Avast, Jonathan, what do you think about that claim?
Johnny, are you ready to go first?
Sure. I mean, I think it's a worthwhile claim. If you want to look at the statistics and the results themselves, Gladiators, they beat the Atlanta Reign in the qualifiers, of course. So you already have that going for you. At the same time, I think that the Gladiators, they looked really strong in the double shield composition against the Atlanta Reign, but also being able to play some other stuff as well. I think this Torb was really interesting when it came out against Dallas, because we hadn't seen a ton of teams, correct me if I'm wrong here, we hadn't seen a ton of teams actually bring it out and bring it to Dallas in this kind of way, which really brings about the thought, like, hey, what if Atlanta Reign had brought out the Torb instead, and then the Gladiators would have had another week to practice, preparing for a team like Dallas, preparing for the Shanghai Dragons. It's very hard to compare. I'm not going to say that the Gladiators or Atlanta Reign, which the two were stronger, because I think it's pretty even. But I think that, given the nature of competition, given what it's like preparing for the Dallas Fuel, I can just imagine how difficult that is, the pace they're playing at, the compositions they're playing, their style. But I really do think that either the Gladiators or the Atlanta Reign would have performed better in the actual playoffs. They had an extra week to prepare for what Dallas Fuel were running, because this was a really good showing by the Gladiators playing this tour composition, but it was pretty on the fly as well. So, you know, I don't know how much time you actually had preparing with this Torbjorn and dpei.
We came in really prepared, I think, for the match. It just didn't go as expected. I think Hanamura was our big mistake. Like, I had like some plans, but basically, like, on Hanamura, it didn't go very well. We just got run over basically on first point, and then we got snowballed on second point. So it was like pretty impossible from that point on, because we thought that basically you can't cap on, like, Hanamura second is not that good for dive, because your backline can hide and spawn. You get surrounded from all the angles. Same with like rush. It shouldn't be that good for rush because you should just get surrounded by all the high grounds. But like, didn't end up working in practice because first point went so badly, and then second point we got really fucking snowballed. So that was like a huge error on our part in terms of preparation. Like, we didn't do something aggressively enough. But I think our Hollywood was good. It was like, that was our plan going in. Like, all our map picks were like pretty much planned. Junkertown, we were expecting, like, if there was going to be a map, they were going to pick that one. But we can't really practice that because no one was playing Lucio Moira on Junkertown, let me tell you.
Yeah, or Doomfist with it as well.
Yeah, and then the Doom adjustment like really railed us. I mean, we adjusted too. We were gonna play Kevin, have him flex the Torb, but I felt like in the match, like I felt like I know we're gonna play Torb. Like, Dallas has, they showed no signs of flexibility. Like, we were just like, you know, we can play this on Hanamura because Kev's had practice on this map. He's played Torb on this map. But then in the match, I decided to go with Mir on Hollywood just because he has much more experience. Even if he hasn't played the map, like, I know his just raw experience on the hero is really good. So that's what we did for Junkertown as well. That was like the in-match adjustment, but it didn't work out. I think that we should have been able to hold A point. We like went over that as a team. Like, that was a huge mistake that we weren't able to hold Dallas on A point defense. But I mean, I think their comp is good. They played it really well. And then they had a really good Doom adjustment, I think, that like we hadn't really thought of, or like definitely never saw in our scrims when we had to play against it. So I mean, Dallas is just a fantastic team. They're a match team. They understand the adjustments in the game, which I think is like invaluable. Like, we came in with a clear game plan, and like everyone understands like why our game plan was the game plan, but like Dallas just made their comp work, and I mean, for sure the best team in North America.
So did you come away from this match then? It sounds like you're pretty, you know, happy with the match, and it was a close match, of course. You know, we ended up losing, but do you leave this match feeling, you know, happy with the performance you put up against the Dallas Fuel, especially given you're playing this composition, or do you look at this match like, hey, we could have beat Dallas Fuel the second time around in the actual playoffs? We knew our mistakes. We could have learned from those mistakes. Do you feel like you could have actually taken Dallas Fuel down playing this tour composition?
I don't think so. I think the meta was really clear at the end that like Lucio Moira, like you just farm Cole, and then you don't farm your support ults fast enough. You don't get echo copy fast enough. I think with the Cole change now, like, it's a bit easier type of thing. But they clearly had a great way to play this meta, and I don't think we would have won in the future tournaments. So I'm happy with the way we played, more so because I talked to you guys. One of the big things for my team is being mentally strong. It feels weird to say we have a bunch of veterans, but we have, like, as a team, we're pretty new to each other. It's a pretty different team dynamic, I would say, even compared to last year. I know we have 4 returners, but we have a very different team dynamic and just very different people on the team. So that's the thing we needed to work on the most, is how to be mentally tough. And I felt like we were mentally tough in this match. I felt like we never gave up. We were always planning to go first. We were always doing our own plans, basically, and we were never disturbed by like the point of the game, and we were always focused on next fight. Like, this basic stuff as a coach for mentality stuff, I feel like we did do. So that, even as a team, I think the players even said like they were just better today, but like they were happy that like they felt like they performed decently in the match. Like, not perfectly. We wish every Overwatch game you can say, oh man, I wish we did something different that fight, but that's just Overwatch, you know, like,
sure.
But that was a really big takeaway from us, is like our mentality is good. I still like, we need more and more experiences, is my opinion. Like, I'm hoping this tournament cycle, is it Summer Showdown is the alliteration we're going with? The Summer Showdown is a good chance for us once we get to Hawaii. I'm sure we'll get to Hawaii. Once we get to Hawaii, I think that'll be like a really good test for us to land and getting more and more experience, because you see these teams, it's the experience that's really showing off in these tournaments. I think that's like really clear to me that, you know, Mayhem has like 4 out of the 6 same pieces, and did well in the tournament. Shanghai, obviously, the core is 5. Just Fate swapped out for Fearless. And Dallas, like, this core has existed for a long time. So the experience is like just super, super important that we need to get under belts, and we have to do it in a hyperbolic time chamber type of thing. Like, prep more for it without actual match experience is the hard part as a coach. So those are the things we're looking forward to going into these next tournament cycles.
Okay. Well, now I'm going to answer the question, the original question that was originally asked. No, David, no. It's not. That's not. It's a good. Everyone wants to. No one cares what I have to say. Everyone wants to hear you talk because you're the guest. That's the thing. So when people are going to tune into the episode, I'm already here to begin with. Everyone's like, oh, we have dpei here. That's the one. So it's good that you're giving long answers, legitimately, because everyone's heard enough of us 3 talk many times already.
Oh yeah,
for lifetimes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important the guest spends a long time talking when they have insight at the Overwatch League level. So to answer the original question, I think if there was another week in the stage, I think Gladiators would have been the second best team. Would have been beaten out Rain in the end and like been that second. Because the thing is, for me, Rain just had a slight edge because they had, on a very echo-centric meta, they had Pelican, but they were so focused on that one comp that I didn't feel like they were very well-rounded, while Gladiators felt to me a far more well-rounded team at the end of the stage. And they're in like another week. And that stage, it's clear that they were like far better than them in my particular case, because it's just Atlanta feels lopsided. They didn't feel like they ever have a wider grasp of the meta, while Gladiators, for me, I felt like had a far more well-rounded team and just need another week to be like, okay, this is the perfect comp for us and we're going to be playing that. But other question, you talked earlier about the nerves for some of your rookie players in those opening matches for yourself, and then a little bit more about gaining experience. So I think that's really interesting here, and we've seen a lot of it in Overwatch in particular as an esport and Overwatch League, is the high turnover rates of rosters, and sometimes a lot of teams seeming to prefer rookie players a lot of the times. And my question to you is, do you feel like the teams burning through rosters, is that more of a preference for rookie players, and is that a downside when you talk about these nerves, or is that more of just player burnout? And like, is that necessarily a bad thing? Is that a good thing? Like, where does the rookie player fit into a team that you're looking to build, and do veteran presence actually matter in Overwatch?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a case by case. Obviously, that's like a easy catch-all is just saying it's case by case. But I think it's clear, like from the first generation of Overwatch, this happens in a lot of games, right? Where the first generation of players are actually not that good. They just kind of got in early and aren't actually that talented. You see a lot of the exactly. Exhibit A is Connor Prince. I mean,
Exhibit A and B.
Oh, B. Sorry.
Got us all, just roasting us all. I didn't bring Johnny into my roast. I was roasting myself.
I wasn't. To be clear, I wasn't targeting either of you. But yeah,
I targeted myself. So,
but yeah, I think there's clear like new talent that needs to be brought up that fills a new role, or just is clearly better just because they've grinded harder, better region, stuff like that. I think right now in Overwatch League, there's a decent balance between the two. But I definitely think if you want to be a successful team right off the bat, just going in for a championship that year, you need veteran leadership. I think leadership is important. You can't just have people who are veterans but kind of like the silent guys. You have to have veteran leadership as far as the actual player leadership is really important. So I think it is important, but it also depends. Like if you're going with the whole Nixel thing, Nixel is like actually a decent mix. I would say Korean contenders, although like not Overwatch League, if you play at a high level in Korean contenders, I think that is very valuable. Look at the RunAway roster that turned Titans, right? Those guys were very good. Like even the Shanghai Dragons roster in season 2, not bad. You know, that's kind of like a whole team imported over, not bad. So I do think that it's a bit weirder for mixed teams. We have that challenge where you don't have that language, you don't have that cultural bond that other teams have, right? That you can actually bro mentality is a lot easier. So my job is a lot harder, but it's worthwhile if you want access to the best across the world for a mixed team. So it really is what you are looking for and what your skill set is as a coach, as well as kind of like your organizational goals. Like Valiant's goals were always to just kind of like be cheap, sell off players, but do the best they can type of thing. And that's like valid as well. And maybe New York just wanted like a clean breath of fresh air for this year compared to kind of their season.
Did anybody see the post? I think it might have been just today, but it might have been a couple of days ago as well. From Eddie Meng, the COO of the Guangzhou Charge. He posted he posted like an article on his blog very recently, talking a little bit about kind of the main focus of it was the role of a head coach and what he was looking for hiring a head coach, because they've just gone through a bit of turnover, which we'll talk about later on. But further down the article, he also talked about the difference that had happened this year in terms of experience actually being directly correlated to success. Because in previous seasons, it's not just that people have wanted rookies, it's that rookies and new head coaches and stuff like that have actually seen enormous amounts of success. Whereas this year, it really does feel like it's the veteran players, leaders, coaches that are really pushing to that next tier. When you think about Dallas and Shanghai and then the other people trickling down underneath them, they're all led by people with a large amount of experience. So that does seem to lend credence that we're going through the maturation process of the Overwatch League right now, where all of the wheat has been separated from the chaff, and now it's just about finding the best possible versions of the good players that we already have. And yeah, Eddie wrote a lot about this, so if you're interested in it, he's a very good writer, and he has a lot of unique experience as well, being related to the background processes inside the Charge. And he's also incredibly candid with what he writes too. So yeah, if you're interested, you can check that out. It's Eddie Meng. I think he tweeted about it as well. He's the COO of the Guangzhou Charge.
Yeah, it's also on the subreddit too. If you visit the competitive Overwatch subreddit, they have it linked there. So,
I want to talk a bit about the new changes though that happened with this team, dpei, where you have newly integrated. I'm going to leave Kevster out of this for now, but Muze and then the backline of Shu and Moth. I think
skewed.
Yes, skewed as well. Yes, although skewed isn't getting played all of the time, so I tend to again put him a little bit to one side because he has a very specific role for the team. But when you're integrating these new pieces in and trying to form a new identity for the team, what are some of the major things you're trying to work on and some of the challenges that you've run into as well? It's part of what you've been talking about is the experience, but a lot of the players on your team are actually very experienced. Even, I think Muze is probably the least experienced. Well, skewed, I suppose, would be the very least, but Muze is the least experienced of the players that are playing full-time on your roster. And even he has had some decent success at the contenders level. So what is it about that next step up that makes the difference?
Yeah, I think so you talked about like kind of the problems of integrating these new players. I think that's like a really good place to start. For like this actually was a problem when we were first scrimming, like basically with supports and the main tank. These are backline, frontline. Just more generally speaking, these are always categorized. Your tracer, I think, is considered a part of like frontline, everything that goes in the front, and like basically the connection between the two needs to be really solid. You need to be like six in the fight together, and like how you go about doing that. Are you more like a Beatty style team? Are you more an aggressive team? Like what type of style do you want? Like those can be antithetical, like from just like how these players originally played. And I think that was a big point for us is kind of like making sure that we made sure both sides were heard. And then also like as coaches right now, like I want to implement my style. Like I don't care about their styles. I don't care about their styles. I want to play my style right now. So like we had to first go through this process of like, okay, there were like arguments about like, oh, backline should move in here, frontline should do this, backline should do this, like pretty much all the time, because that's like a huge synergy that you need to have. And that was like a big struggle at the beginning. But I think as we've gone along through the season, maybe other teams won't say this, but I think we have like really, really good frontline and back communicate, like synergy, at least. It's like really good, and good backline synergy between themselves, right? Like Moth, Shu, and Shu Skew, they need their own synergy together, right? Between the two, and that's just built in with time, scenario planning, going through metas together, and stuff like that. I think that's a part of the reason why Dallas is so good, by the way. Like, they played together and they know exactly. Basically, it's like, to me, it's like follow fearless a lot of the time, but like Hanbin, Sparkle, Doha, and Jaxe have all worked together like in a very significant portion of Overwatch, that they know how each other plays and know exactly what each other want beforehand. So I think it's like really important to get that experience, and I think that was a big learning for us initially. But I think right now I feel really confident that we have like one of the better synergies in the league for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to follow up there, Connor?
I was going to follow up there actually, but it was going to tie into our previous segment with like what the Charge had posted and Eddie about coaching. So specifically, we look at the problems I think some teams have with finding head coaches, particularly because you can find 30 kajillion assistant coaches out there, but it's pretty hard to find what you want for a head coach. And specifically, when you talk about your integration with your new players here, do you feel like that's one of the toughest jobs as a head coach, is to bring rookies into a veteran roster and bring them up to speed? Because I feel like when I look from the outside in, it seems to be a very tough job.
I think kind of regardless of rookie or veteran, just learning how to manage people is like actually really hard. And this is the thing that, looking back, like I don't think I definitely didn't do a very good job in my first 2 years. I think my first year I ruled with an iron fist type of thing. Like, I was pretty well known as like a very harsh coach. Season 2, I like kind of went the other way and was like, I want more player inclusion. I want them to like take the reins a little bit more. And I went completely the opposite end. It was a really weird thing looking back, but it made sense. I essentially over adjusted my own coaching style, going from year 1 where I just was more dictatorship, to year 2 where I was like way too hands off and like essentially like what people think head coaches do, which is like more hands off type of stuff. So right now, I think in season 3, I think I did an okay job. I was like trying to find this middle. And then I think this year, obviously I always think I'm doing better the next year, but I do think I am striking the right balance, and I need to work on that more. But I think the like man management of it, right? That's like inexplicably hard, and I don't think is a very easy skill set to have for young coaches, because knowing something about the game is like also inexplicably important. I don't know what Eddie wrote, but for like what a head coach needs, but you also need to know the X's and O's like at a strong level. Like, I lead most of our review a lot of the time. Like, I need to know the X's and O's deeply to know what the problems are in the game and like how to solve them, and then think about the man management on the side. Like, how do I work with this? But I think also when you're talking about building a new team, culture, all that stuff, how you present yourself, how you lead is indescribably important. I'm sure, I'm actually not sure, but for you guys too, I'm sure you've had like good bosses, bad bosses. And when you have like a bad boss, it just feels like shit, right? And like you can tell
Mr.
like
X
these are the fucking
pain in
problem.
the ass.
Yeah,
Right.
I hate Mr. X.
Yeah.
Actually, though, following up on that, when you talk about those changes in coaching styles, those are some pretty big macro changes in the way you approach coaching your team. And still, the Gladiators have been one of the most consistent teams, record-wise, in the league's history. I think you got like 4th, 5th, and 6th these past 3 seasons, and now again, got championship aspirations. But you're still like in that mix, 5, 4, that kind of stuff. But you're making these big, broad sweeps to the way you coach. How do you approach your coaching style, improving on your coaching? Perhaps not when it comes to the macro changes in the style, but like the micro, like, how do you reflect on season 2, 3 to be a championship coach and eventually win it for the Gladiators? What are some of the stuff you are looking to improve on your own coaching in that way?
Saying like right now, or are you just saying like year by year, what was I thinking?
Well, I mean, it's up to you how you want to answer the question, but it's like, are there like small stuff you focus in, like, hey, like maybe when we do VOD review, like, I should just chime in with this kind of stuff. I should suggest things, how do you work around substitutions? Like, how, even though you're so consistent right now, being, getting 4th, 5th, and 6th. So it's still good results, but at the same time, it must be kind of frustrating because, you want to win, you want to get the titles, and you get so close every time. How do you reflect on your own coaching and how to improve as a coach in that regard, season after season?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. Going from, I guess, season 0 to season 1, like, I didn't really understand coaching truly and honestly. Like, I'm 24, 23 years old or something like that. 1 year out of college, been coaching for, a year, essentially, like a little less, for a game that, like, I'm proficient at, but like, from a management standpoint, I'm a young kid, I'm a hot-tempered person, like, so, like, doing that just was like a learning experience in itself. Every day I was like learning a bunch of stuff, but I didn't really apply it up until like midway through the season and stuff like that. I think this is where good managements are really helpful. Personally, like, I haven't felt like that my managers have been able to help me grow as a coach, but I also think that that's not particularly their job, because it's hard for them to know what I should be doing as well. So, like, I guess going from season 1 to season 2 is like the more relevant talk. Like, I got to kind of like reflect. A big part of me there was like, man, player talent is really, really important. I never felt like we had better players than the enemy team. I felt like for Spitfire, for New York, they were like always going to beat us. With the addition of Fissure and Void, I felt like, wow, okay, our player talent is higher, but I felt like it wasn't quite there. And I also loved how London was a player-led team, so I kind of over-adjusted into that and leaned into that style without truly understanding it. I think like Moon is a more hands-off coach, but I think he did it. Obviously, is doing it way better than what I did in season 2. Because season 2 we picked up like great talent, in my opinion. We still have good talent on the team, but I again think, like, if you look at our roster, like, in retrospect, that roster was not better than the Titans roster or the Shock roster. I think Shock clearly, like, by a large margin, the most talented roster in season 2, is my strong opinion. But like, I kind of over adjusted into like the player, keeping players happy, kind of the more hands off coaching, let players figure it out, the details, give them this general skeleton, and then have them figure it out and trust in the player quality in the match. And I don't think that's wrong, but I like over adjusted to that, if you know what I mean. So that was like the flaw going into season 2, that like, and it's hard to adjust in season because like I came in with this idea in the season and it was hard for me to like change. Although in some moments I did change to be like more hands on. It it wasn't it's not as holistic as you'd like, right? Like, you miss all those micro things that Johnny was talking about for like, oh, this is how I should be doing review. This is how I should be doing this. Like, it's harder for me to think about that during the season, even with the breaks, like how I need to adjust my style more holistically. Um, Going from season 2 to season 3, there's weird management shifts and stuff like that. I wanted to go back towards the middle, right? Like, I believe in player quality, but I also believe in a good team environment, all this good stuff, because we had kind of had bad team environment the past couple of years. So I kind of like leaned back into this and looked at it as a rebuild, although like an expensive rebuild, right? So we went into that off season, or it was mainly me looking into that off season, and I don't think I was a very good scout for individual talent. Was a problem, and I didn't have like assistant coaches who were also skilled at scouting. So that was a big problem on season 3's part, where I feel like we didn't actually like we didn't upgrade where we needed to upgrade. We didn't make the roster changes that we to be a highly successful team. I think we landed somewhere in the middle, and I think looking back on that year, my opinion is like it probably like not too far away from like our roster quality. Because I guess like another big concept that I have is like, how good is your roster quality, and then like then you look at coach diff, right? Like, between the roster quality, what is the difference a coach is making? In season 1, it was so clear Spitfire was going to win to me, like, no problem. Season 2, like, that's coach and player diff, I think. Sorry, season 2 was that, and then season 3 I think was that as well as a really good meta for San Francisco Shock. So going into this season, I think Face is someone who doesn't get a lot of like public praise, I guess, and he's like a fantastic scout in my opinion, and he helped
Right.
build this roster. Yeah, he helped build this roster, and obviously, like we do it as a coaching staff, but we help build this roster, help build even the coaching staff out too with Adala. And I think we made like the correct decisions going into this offseason that I feel like kind of I'm oscillating between styles and like philosophy and stuff like that. I'm probably oscillating from like here to like I'm trying to get closer and closer to where the correct middle should be. And I know that sucks for like fans who want immediate success, but I guess, you know, that's my fault for not being as talented as a coach as I should be. But, you know, I think I'm learning. I think I'm improving a lot. And I mean, uh, yeah, I think that's like the thing for me is that I'm getting better and better every year, is my opinion. But I need to like show it definitely with results. Like at the end of the day, we're in competition. You need the results to back it up. I can say all this stuff. I can sound really articulate or whatever, but it doesn't fucking matter unless you have a trophy, right? So that's something that we just need to achieve, and I need to get even better from where we're at now to achieve that.
You spoke about face being important in the scanning process as well. Is that one of the reasons that you went to such an obscure place to find Skewed too? he has a very particular role on the team, right? But it really did amaze me in this offseason how many players from that single team that finished 9th to 12th in Korean contenders that I would never have looked twice at as a team that potentially would have fielded Owl talent. You know, when you're an analyst, you look at the top teams because you expect that's where most of the Owl teams are going to be picking their talent from. And instead, I think it's like 4 players from OZ Gaming end up getting picked up. There's like Checkmate goes over to Mayhem, Friday goes to NYXL, you guys picked up Skewed. I think someone else just got picked up recently too, but I can't exactly remember. Yeah, exactly. So what's going on there? What was the reasoning behind the Skewed pickup, and what was the thing that like that sold you on him or sold face on him?
Yeah, I think it was I mean, Face is just a fantastic scout, but you talk about Oz Gaming, right? Why do they have so many Owl level talent? That just speaks to me to Korean contenders, how deep the talent really gets. Because I think Zest is very good. He was on that team. I think he's too young now, but he's probably a talent to keep track of. He's on T1 right now. Like the team just had a lot of good players. To be honest, I don't think Friday's very good for what it's worth.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that that team had a lot of good players. It's just Korean contenders has a lot of good players. At the end of the day, it's like team style and coach diff for Korean contenders. I think along with player talent diff, like O2 has proper, and they had Pelican last year. They had like insane talent,
Yeah, that's just ridiculous.
in my opinion. Yeah, just absolutely ridiculous. So, sorry, your next question was what did we see in Skewed, right?
Yes, yeah.
There's this like big idea that we had. I don't really want to talk about it, but just for like because I don't think other teams have caught on, but they probably will. But I think Skewed is just like an exceptional player, like an underrated talent that we felt like we wanted a second flex support, not that he'd be like the main option. We wanted this like tier 1 flex support, like Violet, like Izayaki, like these guys who are just you can see it that their aim is just fucking insane. Like these guys can carry fights on Zen, on Ana, on BAP. Like we just knew like this is what a flex support needs to do. Healing is important, but like aim is more important than any of these things. Like we wanted that tier 1. We didn't feel like Skewed was that, but we felt like he was someone who could kind of fill in when we need to play double flex support and wouldn't have like too much of a like ego or demand, I guess, because you don't want unhappy bench players. I think is a big thing. So like, for example, we could have taken Luffy, who was a good player on Shanghai Dragons, a substitute player, I think, on the whole, but like a good player. His player quality is high, I think, but Skewed fit in better for what we wanted, and we could mold him into the role that we wanted to. So I think that was like an easy pickup, and we were even scouting him beforehand. We were running like internal scrims, and we saw that he was doing well. And even though his English proficiency wasn't there, like a hungry player. So that's exactly what we wanted from that particular role from like a personality standpoint. And then from a hero proficiency standpoint, we just saw great talent there. So not going too in depth on our reasoning, that was like a big reason for why Skewed was such a great pickup, in my opinion.
I have one question left before we tackle the mid-season awards portion of this as well. My big next question is, what was involved in getting Kevster to LA? He is finally in Los Angeles. I saw the video. It was sick. It was a great video reveal as well. I really enjoyed that. What's it like to finally have him actually involved? And can we expect, and this is Avast's major question from our previous episode, can we expect the European fans to actually get what they're expecting from this guy now that he's on low ping? Are we going to see him just skyrocket to the top of the standings? He's dominating everyone. Or is it going to be kind of more of the same of him finding his footing as a younger player in the league? What's your thought process?
Every member of Europe, every person watching Overwatch League from Europe is listening into this answer right now, David.
Evan is the pride of EU. I know how much the EU guys love him. If you have him on your team, they say you can't win on the other team. That's what they say for rank. Yeah. I think I don't think the ping will make that much of a difference for what you visually see on the screen for his mechanics. I don't think it'll make that much of a diff. But what will make the diff is that he will be a team player, that our team environment will be better. I tell him the same thing. I think he is the most talented DPS player in the league mechanically. I think he is, but he's not a good team player. He's not someone with experience. He's not someone who knows how to read the game. He needs to like learn these things. He can do this more in person. We can like help him more out as coaches. The team he can get more comfortable with. I think that's indescribably important. Being really comfortable with your teammates is really, really important. I think that's something you can't do remote, especially for a shyer guy like Kev, because that builds trust, and trust is again inexplicably important in a team environment. It's just so important. So I think it's going to be huge for him that he's in LA. But you guys will see, like, I'm sure the narrative on like Overwatch League broadcast will be like, this guy's on 20 ping. If Gladiators start having success, it's going to be like, it was a Kev diff. It was
sure,
a ping diff.
Yeah.
It was a ping diff.
I promise I won't.
Yeah, but to me right now, like, we're making such huge team strides, and he's a part of that. But to me, Kev will always be Kev. Like, you guys look at this guy's first person, he's very talented, but you see the timing problems. You see these other problems that are with the team. That's the stuff that's gonna be, like, my opinion, he's more talented than Sparkle and Doha from a mechanical point of view. But Sparkle and Doha have amazing teamwork. They know how to really work with the team, know how to communicate to the team. And that's something that is hard to teach, and that is easier to teach in person. So you're going to see the same Kev from a mechanical standpoint, but our team success is where you guys will start noticing that he's actually a great player, but he needs to work on it himself too. We need to help guide him to how to be a great player, but truly and honestly, like, he'll always be a mechanical god. Like, he's a mechanically gifted player, super, super flexible, like a true super flex player, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited because Kev's in LA because of the trust and the intangible things, not because of the ping.
Sure.
I'm sure the ping helps.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I mean, you guys are on a 6-0 spree right now, if you don't count the like qualification games too. So it's not really like you can do a lot better and some trajectory can be allocated towards Kevster's low ping. But man, Avast, if they end up making it to Hawaii in the next stage, European fans are going to end up molding you out of control.
Oh, they're going to go for me. I mean, and the thing is, though, I'll be perfectly happy with it myself, because I like to play the villain for Europe for fun most of the time, and particular Fusion, pissing off Fusion fans. But like, if Kevster actually popped off and like we fixed, because also that was a lot of my concern legitimately for Kevster when he was first picked up for the league too. And when we talk a lot about these hard carry players, historically hard carry players are bad teammates. Historically, they're not like really good teammates. Now that's obviously not there's plenty of examples. I can give some examples, but I'm not going to list them all off. But as David knows, hard carry players historically throughout the league are not great teammates. And not all of it is necessarily because of attitude issues. It's because of also they just haven't been taught the skills to work effectively within a team. And so I think that was my main thing when I saw Kevster come into League 2 was like, okay, I know this guy's cracked as fuck, but like, is he ever going to be shaped into a very usable portion for the Gladiators here? So it's exciting to know that that's where the trajectory is, right? It's like molding him into an actual player and like getting him to be like really get his destiny going and type of, and like actually have him be able to use his ability. So I'd be happy if Kevster hits the peak and all of Europe can just come shit on me. Like if that's the case, like I don't think I really deserve the shitting, but at the same time, I'm gonna take it. I'll take it because whenever a player achieves greatness, I'm all for it.
Just a grateful receptacle for poop.
Great
That's
receptacle.
you.
Yep.
Just a polished basin. I want to get on to some news portions. We missed this portion of the news last week when we did our Plat Chat episode, but it happened like right after we posted, was that RunAway as an organization has disbanded. That is a massive, massive blow, I feel, to the Tier 2 scene. They were, I would say, the number one team that people were scouting from and looking at and seeing at the top of Korean contenders. You could also put Element Mystic up there for sure, but in terms of the length that they've been there and the quality of players they've put through and the stories that they've had over the years, this is a team that's been through it all. I mean, Jonathan, you look distraught at the moment, I think, just with what's going on in your life, but talk to me about RunAway as well.
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it is very sad. This is like I mean, I was gonna say top 3 Overwatch esports org of all time, and then I was like, well, we got Overwatch League. But they're in that conversation about how much impact they have on Overwatch history. Because I was thinking about this the other day, like Apex, it's a meme, whatever have you. 2016, 2017. 2017, we didn't have anything going for us but Apex, pretty much. North America and Europe was pretty much dead. Like, we didn't have any offline tournaments. It was in ruins. And RunAway pretty much carried, or not, they didn't carry, but they were a large part of what made Overwatch Esports interesting in 2017, which was only like 1-2 years into the life span of the game at that point. So, they build this big legacy, and then they actually continue pounding in contenders while the Overwatch League is going on. Obviously, you have the Vancouver Titans roster, while they were still in contenders, who then got promoted, but then also continuing to build these fantastic rosters in Season 2 and Season 3 of the Overwatch League when they had already been promoted. I mean, this organization, I mean, they have more history in my mind than like the likes of Lunatic High, Envious at this point. So you could probably name like the Shock and some Overwatch League teams, but RunAway is one of the most historically impactful organizations in Overwatch Esports history. So also, obviously very sad, yeah.
Also, Runner himself, or and a bunch of people, Flavin too, that were involved with the organization, they've got some scouting talent on that org, just by virtue of having these enormous trials and picking them down. Whoever was involved at the ground floor level with scouting was beastly good at being able to do with it, because they were plucking talent that nobody had necessarily heard of. They weren't always going for the big names in Korea, but once you had been through the RunAway system, you turned into a big name in Korea, and then other people were trying to pluck people from there. So I think massive credit deserved there. When people talk about the best scouts in Overwatch history, I tend to give the credit to Runner, but he wasn't always running the organization. So whoever it actually was on the ground floor doing the direct scouting for the team during those years was doing a phenomenal job.
I think they had like great connections in the scene, and they had that reputation as the team you wanted to be on, because
for sure,
like you guys said, they built your story, right? The RunAway fans were just diehard for you, and so like people wanted to join this team, so top level talent would join this team as part of that, right? Like that's a great part when you have a brand like that. You don't even need great scouting, you just need great connections. And honestly, there are like not that many hidden secrets in Korean contenders. They all talk to each other. I know they all know who the hidden talents are.
Sure.
Across the teams, like Develop and Zest and Checkmate. Those guys were not on hidden talents on Oz as far as the Korean contender scene. And Proper and Pelican, those guys are not hidden talents. They found like great people, I think, too, but their brand is really a sad one to lose in Overwatch for sure.
Yeah. The story of the Vancouver Titans will also probably be the saddest story that I know in Overwatch 2, because they had the potential there to carry on the RunAway legacy into Overwatch League.
Yeah.
And
we got Adamas out of it. But we got a Dominus training facility out of it. So I think it's an equal trade.
And we now have a pizza company. So that's pretty good as well,
and
right?
we have a pizza franchise in Overwatch League. So that's
Holy
good too.
shit.
We got a lot of great things coming out of there.
Got a bunch of great stuff. And all it took, what was the price? 1 RunAway.
Yeah. You know, everything. Thanos face.
Exactly.
Oh my God, this is so sad. Why do you have to present it this way? Now I'm actually just furious. Like,
it is a very sad story, though. It really is. And also, it's like, it's a bit of a long-standing problem with the Overwatch Tier 2 scene as well, is that it just doesn't have enough going for it to be able to support a team like that. Even RunAway, who were making money by being able to sell players to Overwatch League franchises, one of the things involved with this as well is that, God, I can't remember exactly who it was. I don't want to name the wrong player. One of the players from the former RunAway organization was apparently trying to get out of his contract.
It's Assassin.
Was it? Right. Okay.
Talking about
Yeah. So there was like some report or allegation makes it sound insanely serious, but he was apparently there was something weird with the contract situation in the offseason where he was trying to leave his contract in order to join an Overwatch League team instead of having the buyout, and maybe that soured RunAway to the entire endeavor as well, because there isn't much going for you as an Overwatch Tier 2 team runner.
I mean, especially at that time as well in COVID. You know, like how much income do you actually have? So sorry to interrupt, Josh, but you know, I think looking back, you can make the COVID excuse, because I think a lot of teams suffered during COVID, especially if you're contenders, you know, trying to get, you know, that working for those teams. But also, there was a tweet thread. They made that video. They made like a live stream, Runner and Flowerwin, where they talked to chat, etc. And they had, you know, they discussed in the Twitter thread as well. And I don't think you can ignore that, that they had tried to be active as well, trying to discuss formats, you know, improving the Tier 2 scene and suggesting things. And they said at one point that sometimes it almost felt a little bit like it fell on deaf ears. So it sounds like it's a complicated situation for sure in how to facilitate that Tier 2 environment and make it successful and sustainable for these organizations, because we need this kind of competition. Like we do need it. I'm not going to, you know, truly cater to some of the people who say that, you know, we should embrace Tier 2 and just throw money at it when they themselves almost lie and sometimes don't watch the broadcast themselves. You know, like, you need the viewership to provide the money. You know, there needs to be a financial reasonable transaction there. You can't just throw money at it if you don't get the views, etc. But there definitely needs could maybe make some adjustments to the format, some of the regulations, sponsorship, etc. It sounds like RunAway was trying to take part in that conversation. And, you know, I can't make assumptions or suggestions about how those talks actually went. But it seems to be an ongoing conversation in how to help organizations like RunAway make this sustainable. Because by the sounds of it, they had issues raising appropriate amounts of money to make it financially stable. And so Runner was streaming a ton to actually put money into the organization itself, which is, you know, not
how insane
the way.
Is that?
Yeah, that I mean that's crazy. Legendary. It also speaks to his dedication, you know, of course. And I mean, it's his, you know, RunAway is almost like his loving child, you know, and like he's willing to put all these hours and money into this organization to make it work. But yeah, it's difficult. I can't imagine how difficult it is. So I'm hoping that, you know, with Overwatch 2, I was gonna say around the corner, but it might be 2 or 3 corners. With Overwatch 2 coming out at some point in the future.
That's just a building. Let's just put that many corners on there. We're just looking at
describing a building.
With Overwatch 2 coming out at some point in the decade of 2020, yeah, maybe we can make some adjustments. and you know, I mean, it would be the dream to see RunAway come back, but maybe make some Tier 2 changes or try to make it more sustainable for teams like RunAway to see them succeed.
Yeah. I would like to tack on a question to that real quick before we move on then. So, David, you used to have Gladiators Academy, and looking now at RunAway's disband and like the supposed reasons for that, because I'll put forth my opinion first and we'll see if you agree or disagree. Personally, after seeing how Tier 2 operates at an org level, being within an org, and seeing how it operates in other esports, I'm of the opinion that tier 2 in esports is inherently going to be subsidized and will never be successful. That's my opinion. 100%. I don't think like LCS and League, largest esport on earth, the Academy, there's like fucking no one watching that shit. It's a money sink. The only difference is it's a far more supported system, which we should have had from the beginning with Academy teams in Overwatch League, where the flexibility with rules and contracts and players actually generated value for teams, which we didn't have that initially with Academy teams for Overwatch League. It made the player rules and the contracts and how you could move players back and forth were nonsensical. And it removed a lot of the value. So looking at, since you used to have an Academy team and looking at the current state of tier 2, do you feel like that there is any solution for tier 2, or is it always going to be a system that was inherently kind of flawed?
Yeah, I kind of agree with your original sentiment, which is just like, I think it's putting like too many feet far forward from where you are. Esports is trying to be like traditional sports without having the amount of money that traditional sports has. Like, even some teams don't have, like for basketball, they don't have G League teams, right? That's like the feeder team into it. Baseball too, like you need on return investment, and it's because like your top end makes like 300 million that you can like toss these guys like 50K on the side for the like aspiring MLB players. Probably less, to be honest. It's probably like they make like very, very fucking few.
I mean, we had like Trevor Mays.
Trevor,
he talked about it because he used to, like the 2018 Player Summit, how he made like a less than minimum wage.
Yeah, he was eating PB&J all the time, like 3 meals a day. Like, yeah, I think it's just unsustainable. Even at the top level, like you treat your players pretty badly to do it, and I think that's fine. That's essentially like Boston Academy essentially does that, where I think they actually have the correct like sustainable markets like salary and stuff like that. Maybe they tie you in contract hell, but that's part of the process. Like if every team did that, I think that is actually the way you need to like make it actually the line that you wanted to. Because if you did what academy teams were doing, which was paying like players like an insane amount and like supporting them to go on these international trips, when contenders makes zero money, it's just a sink of money you're throwing down the drain from an organizational standpoint, and you're not making that up in Owl's like huge profits or anything like that. That needs to sustain itself first before you start reinvesting into a secondary feed system. So I think like Overwatch League and just many esports are taking like too many steps ahead before the environment actually grows to that amount organically, where it's actually financially stable. Otherwise, like you said, it has to be heavily subsidized by Riot or something, or by Riot for League of Legends, or by Blizzard or whichever publishing company. But I think that there's no advantage for them either for it to be a sustainable system. Just pick people off ladder, and they don't care about the quality of play. Like rarely do like competitors notice the difference in quality of play. I feel like they just like the excitement, the storylines. Like that's the stuff that Overwatch League needs to be working on, and not like the quality of play or anything like that. The feeding system and stuff like that for the pro players. That's at least like my opinion on the topic.
Well, now that we've solved tier 2, let's move on to the Summer Showdown patch.
Let's do some rapid fire here, Josh, because we got a lot of ground to cover.
Well, the Summer Showdown maps in the patch. We've got some new stuff heading into this one. Do we have what the hell is going on here? I gotta be honest, I'm not up to date with this. What are the new maps that are coming in? What's the new patch that's coming in? I'm lost in the source.
So the patch they're going to play with in the Summer Showdown, it is going to be 1.60.1, which includes recent changes to Baptiste, Echo, McCree, Moira, Reaper, and Zarya. So it's going to be the one that we covered where
patch.
It's current live patch.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay,
that makes it.
That could have been an easier way to say it. Oh, I understand. But I wanted to bring out the numbers, the patch numbers. Fair. People can see it when they log in on the screen. Yeah. So essentially, lowered ultimate cost, or increased ultimate cost for their god. Thanks for that. For Echo. And then for Moira Coalescence as well. So there are some interesting changes here. We've covered this before in the podcast. Go watch the prior episodes. And then we have the map pool as well. King's Row is back in the pool.
Sorry.
Of course, King's Row is back in the pool.
Oh yeah, I love to see it. With Hollywood, the rare dynamic hybrid duo of King's Row, Hollywood, Ikenvalde.
I love these hybrid maps. I actually love them. I love all hybrid maps in the game. It's the best map type. It just straight up is.
I do love Numbani, so I'm sad to see it out. But it's the same assault map, same control. Oh, yeah.
What was the actual? What's the actual difference in the map pool here? What am I missing? What did they
Numbani's
remove
out.
or add? Numbani?
Yeah.
So Assault is always the same because Paris and Horizon.
Yeah, Horizon are gone. They've been
and
changed.
Control is always
Control
the
is the
same.
same.
So it's
I
only
think
hybrid and
Hollywood.
escort.
They kept Hollywood, and I think they changed it to hybrids, and then they changed all three of the escorts.
No,
Junkertown was still there.
Junkertown was in last.
Right.
So before they had Rialto and Dorado.
Dorado, yeah.
So
True. Okay.
it will feel quite different, and it'll still feel different as well from the main melee because this wasn't the exact same map pool as we had in the main melee either. Even though we might be trending back to a similar meta. All right, we've already gone through that kind of stuff, so there's a little quick count. We've gone through it. Some coaching changes though are coming up, and I want to. Well, we're not going to lump these together, but I want to kind of talk about each one and then maybe have a discussion afterwards. The first one being that Shock have parted ways with Agape. Now, this wasn't the Shock's decision to let Agape go, as far as I'm aware. I think Agape made the decision to leave the team himself. I think citing family issues. Again, I should really have the source in front of me while I'm just saying this on a podcast. But I think that's what they said in the parting message. Am I right here? Am I wrong? Can someone fact check me?
He tweeted out saying, "Thank you for the staff who sympathized with and understood my family problems."
Right, there we go.
So, yeah, there could be something like that in that, of course. But yeah, interesting to see how this affects the Shock with one of their assistant coaches gone. A staff that is already, being mixed around and tossed around and making changes. This season.
The other part to this as well, before I get you guys' opinions on it, is Sungwoo getting a new. Sungwoo is the new head coach for the Guangzhou Charge. He's a coach that has previously been involved with the Charge since he was on the roster as an assistant coach from 2018 until sometime in 2019, 2020, something like that. And then ended up leaving the team, and now he's come back as the new head coach, which is part of why Eddie Meng was writing that blog post, essentially, the article about the roster shakeups and his hiring processes and that kind of stuff. First of all, I want to ask dpei, what do you know about Sungwoo? It is so difficult to be able to get proper insight on coaches in the league, especially if they don't primarily speak English or they're involved with teams who don't primarily speak English. So I know nothing about this guy. All I know is that Packing 10 was tweeting about him somewhat favorably. Otherwise, I'm completely lost. I don't know what this even means for the Charger in any way.
Well, now we know David can't like him. Now we know.
I mean, Sungwoo, I've interviewed, I think in season 2, I interviewed him. First thing I can tell you is English isn't too good from that interview. But more seriously, Ty Dollar and Shu both worked with him. Shu has raving things to say about Sungwoo. He says he gave him a lot of detail. I think for that team, the assistant coaches worked a lot with individual review. So Ty Dollar and Sungwoo did a lot of individual review, and Sungwoo worked with Shu. So and Shu says he's a great coach for at least for him individually. He wasn't talking from a macro level. He was just saying I felt like he just said he had a lot of confidence in Sungwoo. And I know Ty Dollar is really close with him too. So as far as I can tell, a good coach. I don't know him personally. And that interview was so long ago that I honestly don't remember too much about it. But I mean, I think it was definitely weird. Guangzhou's head coaching decision is a bit weird because they had axed Sungwoo, Ty Dollar, and Jin. Essentially axed all of them, and then went with a new coaching staff, and then bring back Sungwoo. So they must have had some nostalgia about it, and he was probably better than what they thought they were going to get in free agency as far as coaches go. So
yeah,
I'm interested because I think Guangzhou has talent, but it's been really they just look awful in the game. I don't even watch their games anymore because it's just not worth watching. Yeah. Hopefully he can bring them together because I think they have some good pieces there at least.
Interesting. The other part of this question that I wanted to get your thoughts on is that we've been talking a little bit on the show about the possibility of some brain drain within the San Francisco Shock. Now, you still have Krusty there. Coasty, I was about to call him. That would be a completely different name.
Coasting along there. Coasty.
Yeah.
You still have...
If he's just slacking off.
You still have
Yeah.
Krusty, but they've really shuffled up a lot of the structure underneath him as well, with Junkbug and 9K in particular. Part of that, kind of what we thought of as the big three coaches behind the San Francisco Shock success, moving on to different pastures, and now they are starting to integrate other people, and now Arachne's had to leave as well. Do you think there's any stock in that, just from an outside speculative degree? You still obviously have Krusty, who's so well respected across the scene, but when things like that shuffle, what would your opinion be of the kind of current state of the Shock? They're not doing badly by any means, but they're not the world beaters that they once were.
Yeah, I think Shock are in an interesting situation because their expectation is to win. There's no other expectation for. It's only three-peat or nothing. And that's the expectation they built because of their historic success, right? So I think they're in a bit of a predicament there where they have to win, and I think that pressure is very overwhelming. So as far as like the brain drain goes, obviously you lose really quality coaches. I won't even say assistant coaches, just quality coaches in Junkbuck, 9K, and then I think last season had Arachne, right? So you're losing quality coaches, and just not having a coach. I guess if Agape was bad, then that's like a positive thing. If he was like neutral or positive, then it's a negative thing. Just to have less coaches, the head coach has to do more. But I do think that the head coach has like a ton more influence, depending on how your system is, right? Obviously, but I think in my mind, Shock should still be fine. Like your expectation shouldn't lower too much from where it has been, just because I don't think anyone will lower their expectation kind of regardless, as far as I'm concerned. So it's obviously a negative to not have a coach, unless that guy was like just being a bad coach, right? But
Sure.
yeah, so that's not a good thing. But maybe they have a budget for a mid-season acquisition for a coach, or Thesaurus and Krusty can kind of two-man it. I don't even think it's bad to two-man coach, to be honest. Like you have clear direction, you have less argument. You just kind of go with your gut as the head coach. There's less of a triumvirate or anything.
Sure. I want to move on to our next topic, which is that Chengdu are making a few not a few changes here. They've swapped two players around. They've swapped Kaneki and Tarocook1e. So Tarocook1e is in, Kaneki out. We had a discussion in the previous episode, don't know whether you guys remember, about players that hadn't played any maps and had been subbed out. And when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, is Kaneki a candidate?" But he did actually play this season, right?
He did, yeah.
Yeah,
He did.
so
he looked okay when he played as well. He didn't look awful.
Also, people in the comments did answer our question. Lolsish was picked up and didn't play a map. So there you go.
Oh yeah, that's true. That was I totally forgot about Lolsish. Yeah, that's true.
So Lolsish was the
thought of that, but didn't consider it because he wasn't even eligible to play. Like he was in the wrong country.
Yeah, so I mean, through no fault particularly of Lolsish's own, he is the only player in the league that we can think of that was signed to a contract but didn't actually play whatsoever, other than original Joe Meister in 2018.
No,
well,
I played
Avast,
preseason, so technically I still played something. Joe Meister and Lolsish are the only people to literally never even touch the stage.
All right.
They were only allowed to look at it.
You have your preseason.
Hollowed ground once. One touch, one pity touch.
What do you guys think of this move? Jonathan, what do you think of the Kaneki Tarocook1e swap?
I have no input whatsoever into this. None whatsoever. I mean, Kaneki, he saw like two maps. He played like Torb for a little bit in that region, because we get the notes. We get the notes when we wake up each morning, what happened in the APAC games, and we walk over, what happened, who stood out, and every time Kaneki was featured, it was like, he played like Torb on Volsky or something like that. So I don't have a ton of insight. Tarocook1e, from my understanding, he plays like some of the longer range hit scan. Haven't followed Chinese contenders, so I'm just speaking out of my ass here. But at the same time, I have a hard time seeing Tarocook1e breaking into a pretty solid Chengdu Hunters DPS lineup. Do you have any insight on this, Sideshow? Do you know?
No, I haven't watched his VODs yet, and I don't know the guy from this previous off-season when I was doing review of players. I also find it difficult to believe that he would be able to tap into the hit scan lineup that the Chengdu Hunters already possesses, because I was actually pretty impressed with the players that they were already fielding. Like, I thought that Jimmy has been pretty damn good in that role, honestly.
It's been okay.
I mean, the times in which he is... The thing is, as well, we haven't actually had that much long-range hit scan being played in the region overall. Like, there were some opportunities to play Ashe for sure, but APAC was lost in the fucking sauce over the June Joust, and Chengdu was no exception to that. So I don't think they really had their best opportunities to showcase the best from that roster. But in the times where Jimmy was able to play the Widowmaker and the Ashe, and then even when he played Sombra too, I thought he was pretty damn impressive. So for a person that I don't know anything about, like, if they were just anybody, I wouldn't expect them to be better than Jimmy. But that is coming from a complete place of ignorance because I don't know how good Tarocook1e is. I'm just going to have to look at him. But it's not a direct one-for-one swap in terms of player role.
No, it's definitely not. So, I mean, he's been on some decent teams in the past too as well. He's been a staple of Chinese contenders, but he's never been like a player on a winning team. He's not been in any sort of those franchise teams that have been like at the top of Chinese contenders, really. His best result was most recently with Team Chaser. So, to me, it seems odd. I mean, it just seems like an odd swap unless they have bigger, bolder plans for this role in the future for them and what long-range hitscan means to them, because Kaneki didn't even play too much and obviously hasn't been played too much so far. And will that even change in the future realistically? Like, potentially, yes, but who knows?
I guess the important question is, if you're a Chengdu Hunters fan and you're coming out of this first half of the season and you're thinking, is this the swap we need to be able to push us to the big time? We're saying probably not, right?
Well, that wouldn't have made any difference for the first two stages, so more than likely. So
maybe a little bit.
I don't.
But
maybe
also,
better than Jimmy.
But also, we don't know is another part of this. The three of us, and I'm assuming you as well, dpei, you don't have any particular insight into this guy.
Fuck his Tarocook1e, dude. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, I love like contenders and Chinese contenders. I try to look sometimes, but I don't even see, like, I've never even heard of this guy. I agree with you that Jimmy is, like, if he's brought on for the hit scan role, Jimmy is a good hit scan. Like, you and Tidala, like, I think they had him on their Guangzhou Academy team, whatever that was called. And apparently Jimmy is just fucking insane, is what they tell me. They say, like, his aim is like happy level, no brain, but you know, his aim is insane. So I think that's valuable to have just some brain dead aimer, you know. So if he's brought in for that role, Jimmy is probably better. Leave is like their flexible, like, hit scan ish player that plays Tracer and all the other like flanker players, and then Jinwoo's obviously like the hard projectile player that they play around a lot of the time. So I see no impact in this, but I also think Chinese, like, Chengdu is kind of bad at roster construction, but maybe they have like a very specific purpose for this kid. I'm not really sure.
Okay, well, time to get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. I want to go through some mid-season awards.
We're getting into the meat and potatoes.
Meat and potatoes. There were three different portions. This is a 3-course meal, I've asked. First of all, the dpei interview. Second of all, a little bit of news recap. Third of all, the main course, served at the end to add some spicy twists. It's the mid-season awards.
You were the favorite of mine so far, so the appetizer was better than the main course. Don't worry.
Didn't throw me any hardballs or anything for my interview. I want someone to just shit on me in an interview.
Well,
okay.
Listen to the comments section then. In the comments section, you can post some hardball questions that we should have asked dpei during our brief interview. I want to take a moment, though. We're at the mid-portion of the season, and so we've come up with a bunch of awards. Some are the awards that the league itself is going to hand out. Some are awards that we have invented. And the way they're phrased is that they're awards of the mid-year. But also, if you guys think that someone is a front-runner to win at the end of the year, even though you wouldn't award it right now, I'm open to that, right? If you're like, okay, Pelican by the end of the year is going to win MVP or Rookie of the Year, okay, I'll accept that, even though it's not fair to give it him right now. I'll be fine with that. Let's start with our first one. The first one is Most Improved. So Most Improved. What, sorry?
That team or player?
That's player, okay? Most Improved player. Why would you give it the Most Improved team? That's
I don't know. Oh, why wouldn't you?
Just go mathematical on your ass. Just say it's the justice right off the bat.
Okay, fair enough.
Why couldn't you give a most improved team by the mid-season?
Okay, all right, that would have made some sense. But no, I mean most improved player. So I want some reason behind this as well. Some player that stood out to you. Who's giving me their first pick? I want to start with Jonathan, I think.
Okay, well, first pick of the most improved player draft, where you can select the same answer. I'm gonna go with Crimso for this one. This is a player that struggled, or it didn't really struggle. Now, why am I saying that? The problem with doing this, okay, is because the circumstances of some of these players have changed so drastically. And Overwatch is a team game. If you have a good team around you, it is so much easier to succeed. And I think that Crimso is a prime candidate here because, you know, dating back a couple of years, I think Crimso has been a really good flex support. But he's always been in the shitter when it comes to, you know, what teams he's on and the problems they're facing. And so I understand some of the frustration he felt when the K left the Dallas Fuel last year, went to Washington Justice. And this guy's fuming because he's a legit good flex support player. Obviously didn't have success on Canada World Cup roster either. So that put a dent in his reputation a little bit because that's how people do it. You know, they look at his Wikipedia page and they go like, well, he was pretty poor with Canada. It's like, no, it was actually not Crimso's fault. I think he's always had it in him a little bit to be a, you know, league average kind of flex support player. And now he's shining with this good Houston Outlaws roster. So I'm going with Crimso for most improved in terms of results. But I think this was coming a little bit. I think he had it in him already to be this good.
I like that. I think that's pretty wholesome. The problem with most improved is that people assume that you're deliberately saying they were shit before this, which is so. I like that you made that caveat though, Jonathan, because you're making it very clear that that's not what you're saying. Avast,
enough,
I'm gonna require your answer. Who would yours be of the mid-season or looking forward to the end of the season?
I actually have one that pertains to our guest currently, to David. And someone that historically I've rated very highly, but I didn't think has looked too good to start out with, but has looked a lot better now once we got to mid-season. Space. I'm going with Space because I think Space, historically, the best Western off-tank and has had very good performances. This start of this year, I don't know what was going on with him. I don't know what was going on with my man, Indy. But if we made it to about midway, I think he's returned to normal Space form. And I'm very much more on the Space train again because legitimately I was looking at some of the early performances and being like, what, this doesn't look like Space, like what's going on here? And then now I'm like, that's Space, that's the guy, cornrow power, that's the dude, like that's him. So I'm actually much more on the Space train. So kind of interesting pick because he's such a veteran presence already and it's historically been proven already. But personally, I just didn't think he was having a great start of the season, and I think he's looked much more up to form now.
All right. Silence from the Gladiators camp. I would like your answer then, dpei. Who are you going to go for?
Oh man, these questions were hard, and I didn't think about them beforehand, so this is a hard question. I'm not really sure because, like you said, like the individual improvement is hard to track across different teams, right? It's got to be like someone on Spark or something. I actually have no idea. I think
no, it shouldn't be anyone on Spark. No.
Okay.
Avast is a Spark hater over here. He's a non-believer.
Can be Glister. Like I think it will be by the end of the year if they utilize Glister more and more in the hit scan role. I think it could be Glister because he can actually shine on that team. And I think, like my opinion, like I thought he was a great free agent talent. Was my like really strong opinion. I think there was like some GM survey thinking, who do you think is going to be the best trade or like acquisition? Not like free agent acquisition, but like trade in the year. And I put down Glister or like most surprising or something like that. I mean, I still have a lot of belief in this guy. I think he's a good player for sure. And like, I think on London, he was underrated. And I'm still hoping if Shock does well, like he'll be able to shine. So I guess it hasn't shown yet. But if Shock utilizes him more and more, I think he's a great player that will really shine. Like the kid's aim is insane for sure.
Okay.
And I think his game sense is really good. He was known as a flexible player, but he's like gone to scan role. But maybe we can see that flexibility again if Shock can utilize him a bit more.
I'm going to throw out a pick that's definitely based on recency bias, but if I was to give the award right now, I think I'd give my award to Hawk. Because I think that while I saw a huge amount of talent and potential in him when he was in Contenders and was going to the Gauntlet and stuff, I've not particularly been impressed with his performance in Owl in general across his career. But the June Joust, I was watching him and the guy just, he felt like, it was almost like an epiphany watching him because he went from being a player that was okay to just knowing exactly what his role was in the metagame. And he was everywhere at all times, having major impact on the Diva when they were running these Orisa Diva compositions. I was really impressed with his play in the entirety of the June Joust. I think he was one of the major components to their success, which I haven't said or wanted to say about Hawk since he joined the Overwatch League. There hasn't been one moment or one meta where I've gone, damn, that's the player that I saw when I was watching Contenders. And I really felt like he'd stepped up in this most recent tournament. And I'm hoping that it's progress as we continue. So not necessarily most improved, but maybe like recapturing some of that greatness and potential that he showcased initially.
I mean, that would follow most improved because he wasn't looking good before to you, and now he's improved.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, that's why
I think it's interesting that you guys chose 2 off tanks on teams that kind of struggled last year and that are doing much better now. Like to me, a lot of it is team diff. Like I think I like failed Space last year and like he wasn't able to shine as well as he could have. Whereas this year, like I feel like he's on the same page. We're doing a lot more review. He's getting a lot more individual review. Like he's able to shine a bit more. So I feel like the same for Atlanta. They just look more cohesive. Whereas last season they didn't. So I think that's like a big part. Like you're always, especially on the off tank role, I feel like it's so easy to be a feeder on Diva specifically, right?
For
like
sure.
you're either in there with your team and you're like killing everyone, or you're DMAC constantly because your team's like AFK doing nothing, and you're trying to hold space and take space and just feeding. So, yeah, I think that makes sense for like why those players outside looking in like would look like really improved. But I'm under the believer of like team diff, I guess.
I thought Space was great last year. I just didn't think he looked great at the beginning of this year.
Oh,
I
really?
thought Space was still great last year. I like obviously he wasn't like at his peaks because of like team issues and like the synergy with that. But my personal belief is like I just did not think Space was having the impact he normally had even last year at the beginning of this year. But I think now he's back to normal Space and I think he's popping. So
okay. I'm going to move things on to the next award that we have, which is Rookie of the Year of the Mid-Season. It's the Rookie Award. So either who you think is the front runner to win it at the end of the season, or the rookie you think would get it right now if it was awarded. I want to go in reverse order and throw dpei under the bus early on here. Who's your rookie to watch, or who's your rookie to award it to right now? Who's leading that race?
I think, at least from the NA region, the 2 obvious ones to me are Ellie and Piggy. 2 like good friends too, so it's really funny. But I think those 2 are like those were people we scouted as well. Maybe this is like a big problem is that I have like this bias towards people that we like thought highly of in scouting reports, right? But I think both those guys are fantastic players. Pelly like definitely popped off in the playoffs, right? Like he did a great job, and it's clear that he's a great DPS player, flexible DPS player. Unfortunately, only able to showcase the Echo in the June joust, but I think he's really flexible and really good on every hero, to be honest. And then I think Piggy is also kind of this really good player who's maybe I don't really know what the narrative around Outlaws is. Maybe it's around like the DPS players or something, or Jonggu or something. But I think Piggy is like a really exceptional player at specifically Sigma and Zarya. So when those heroes are in meta, he looks really, really good. I think, and those are 2 like standout rookies. I think another one like that I can say, but it's biased, is like I think Skewed and Muze. Also, if by the end of the year, like our team gets to where I think they can go, like those 2 will be like, you guys will start seeing them once our team starts doing better. Like those 2 guys, I think are really good rookies. Who are gonna kind of pop off if we do well in this next tournament.
Connor, what are you thinking?
I'm trying to think of like the problem is there's not that many like rookie players this year.
There aren't that many, no.
Compared to our past years. Compared to our past years, there's not that many rookies.
In previous years, it almost felt like Rookie of the Year was just another MVP vote. You know, you had Haxal, you had Alarm, you had
Axel the rookie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The rookie Overwatch before in his life.
And Alarm as well, the rookie. I mean, it's just it was nonsense. But this year, at least most of them are, in some sense, true rookies. They've had success at the contenders level, but not.
I'm actually going to throw one out of left field to see, and this is going to be one that if this keeps up at this level, it's pretty impressive. It's going to be like, oh yeah, this guy owns is the flex support for Paris. What's his name again?
Oh, Khan.
I actually think if Khan keeps up this level of performance, because Paris, I was not big on Paris coming in. I was really down low on all of the budget poo string tier teams that were rebuilt. But like Paris was definitely down there, and they've impressed me a lot most recently. Okay. It could have just been a meta thing because I think they understood the meta pretty well early, and they didn't necessarily master it. I don't think they necessarily have the talent fully on the roster to be the best, but I look at because also I'm always skeptical of whatever talent EU says is the next big thing. But Khan actually is looking really good. I think there's even a shot to potentially made for Naga if he keeps up his performance on Echo. Both players from Paris.
These are kind of crazy picks, though, Avast. Like it would be wild if a rookie.
I know they're crazy picks, but how is it any more crazy than Pelican? What is Pelican's only had one good stage?
Sure. Okay.
I'll go with Pelican.
I don't think it's more crazy. I don't think it's less crazy than Pelican for sure.
I like it though.
I think it's Piggy and Pelican.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, the thing is, it's not that like just sure Pelican has the pedigree, right, and has had a really, really good stage, looked like the best Echo in the league, but it's still one stage so far that we've seen from Pelican that looks like a rookie of the year performance.
Jonathan, what are you thinking?
No, I'll pick Pelican.
Okay.
I mean, it's between him and Piggy, in my opinion.
See, no one's picked my go-to.
Oh,
thing.
are we about to hear copy pasta right here?
No. This isn't a copy pasta. I don't feel crazy strong about this, but
Gaga's
I think
a good candidate. I think too.
What? Sorry.
Gaga, I think, is a really good candidate. I don't think he's like a rookie by the traditional sense. He's been a long mainstay in Chinese contenders.
At the moment, if you were going to give it to any one person, it would be Shy for me, because I think he's come in and he's just turned a franchise around. Like the pre-Shy days and the post-Shy days of the Spark are very different. They are very different, and he's been popping in the APAC region individually. So while there isn't a clear frontrunner right now, I think I would give the award to Shy personally. I think he would edge it out slightly over somebody like Piggy. I want to see more from Piggy. I want to see whether it's like team diff. I don't know. It is so hard to extract the off tank from the team success that they're having. Piggy looks really, really good, and IBM Watson knows more than me and rates them super, super highly. So it's interesting to take a look at that. Piggy does seem to be doing incredibly well, but the flashiness of Shy has just suckered me in.
Don't fall for
you
it.
Just fucking hate the Spark.
I simped for the Spark in the beginning. I was the one in the preseason rankings. You thought I was crazy with Spark, and they've beaten me down to the dirt at all opportunities. They've beaten me fucking down. I thought their roster was insanely stacked, and they still haven't even begun to touch how many stacked players they have on that roster.
All right.
There's
Yeah, we're gonna rein the simp in. He's essentially just a scorned lover at this point. That's what it is.
I'm fucking pissed at that team.
Back.
I'm pissed at that team. I'm mad at them. I'm mad at that team.
The next award
I like Shy though as the pick for sure. Like Shy, I think too could be like one of the next. Like he was lauded as like the Chinese like superstar DPS that he wanted to pick up once he turned 18. This was the guy people were talking about for like 3 years. So I think we have to see, but definitely
I need to see more.
The next award is Coach of the Year of the midseason. So this might be a bit awkward, not gonna lie, because David,
we don't
if
have
you can't pick yourself, who are you gonna pick?
What is that hubris, that narcissism? It's got to go to Rush, no? I think it's like super clear to me just because he's rounded up. It's not like a new team, but it's kind of a new team. The success they've had, like it clearly. And Coach of the Year is also always like team diff too. Like you're not going to give it, even if like a bottom team look good, you're not going to give it to them compared to some guy like Rush and Dallas Fuel who are like seeing tournament success. Even if like some unexpected team was doing well, like you'd still give it to them. So to me, it's like very clearly Rush. And I think that's like the clearest decision for me, at least.
Yeah. I'm afraid I'm going to have to fall into the Rush party as well. Though I will say I'm feeling much better about Moon's coaching style with Shanghai making changes and still maintaining success, and also making good adjustments throughout tournaments too. The thing with Moon is that I always feel like he's so hands-off. I don't actually understand what the process is on that team. When they talk about Moon, and Moon won Coach of the Year last year, right? I think for the regular season. But when the players were talking about him, they were describing him in very vague terms of being like an emotional leader and that kind of stuff. And I can never get a grip on like what coaches do when players describe them like that, if they're not in like leading review or delegating tasks very specifically. And I want to know the specifics of what's involved. But yeah, even though my Moon stonks are definitely rising, Rush is the clear winner for me.
Yeah, I do think you could give a shout to like Junkbuck Harsha and Jake, I suppose. I mean, you can't. You have to pick either of Junkbuck and Harsha, I suppose. But it's the Houston Outlaws, and they've been doing well. Have they, advanced to a stage playoffs? No, they haven't. But they got a 7-1 record. They've had a pretty easy strength of schedule, but they're finding success, and they're the Houston Outlaws. And they came into the year with a bunch of rookies, some of which people didn't rate at all, and they're doing good for themselves. So you got to applaud that. It just so happens that Rush has been a monster this year.
They also played Brigitte Moira with Reaper. So, they also did that one. Just going to put that out there. Not that, but I do actually agree on the basic sentiment that they are, like, Junkbuck's also been really good for way before that. But I think this is also the first year where the head coach, the coach of the year award goes to not just a team diff, because I'm going to go into the Rush, but also it's the first time I could say not team diff, simply because they have defied the meta many times by simply not having hit scan in their lineup. They have I feel like they've made it work with Sparkle's hero pool and picked perfect mid game adjustments and their comps coming into matches, which other teams would have struggled really heavily with if they had the lack of flexibility we assumed they were going to have coming into this season, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people look at the Dallas roster and are like, okay, a lot of really good players here, but we seem to be missing a hit scan with XE retiring, and we seem to be missing a tracer player. And we also seem to be missing a more well-rounded main tank, right? With Fearless, where we knew Fearless was really top tier on certain heroes, but we didn't know how he was going to be on things like Ryan.
Orisa as well, particularly.
And Orisa, and Orisa, and particularly that. So I think that when you look at this is no longer just a pure team difference for we've sort of seen for other years, where it's kind of easy to this coached the best team, but also there's a clear deficit being worked around here with Fuel halfway through the season.
Yeah, even if it was a team diff, though, Rush essentially got given a blank checkbook and told to make a team that would win. So,
that's what's even more mind-boggling, is that he was told to make a team to win. They don't pick up a tracer player, right? And they still do, and they still make a good team.
That definitely did seem like a flaw in the plan very early on, and could still come back to bite them. But my point being that this doesn't really seem like the kind of situation where you have a coach, but also someone else was in charge of a lot of the roster too. It does seem from the outside that Dallas essentially just gave the keys to the castle to Rush, and he runs the place. And so the buck stops with him, and any responsibility and accountability also stops with him, but also you have to give him the credit if it does work, and it has been working extraordinarily well.
Yeah, I on that Dallas Fuel topic as well, I was actually thinking about potentially giving most improved player to Sparkle, which sounds kind of controversial when you think about it.
Yes,
because this guy, was a big reason. Listen to me, okay? There's a big reason why the Paris Eternal won the Summer Showdown, okay? Because he came in and played Genji, but that's just kind of what he did, okay? That's what we were promised. His May last year was pretty ass. It was pretty bad. And I'm not saying that he's an amazing May now, but I think it was very overemphasized and overhyped last year as to how good Sparkle was coming into the league. I could buy into some of that hype. I could see it, but he didn't have the versatility as a player, in my opinion. He was bound to the Genji and playing that very, projectile kind of role. But now, improving the way he did on Tracer and making it work for the Dallas Fuel, that was just epic stuff. That was elite Overwatch caliber player stuff. And the way he's just been able to integrate himself into this team and facilitate himself as a championship player. I didn't think that he could do this last year. I think he was a good rookie that was good at playing projectile, but I think he was overhyped coming into the league, and now he's very versatile. He keeps just making right decisions in the game, and you can see this in his macro game, positioning, always has impact. And I didn't think he had this in him. So I'm going to say Sparkle as well for a shout as most improved player, because I think he's taking leaps and bounds, big strides individually.
Right. That is definitely an out there pick, but I can appreciate the thought process behind it.
No?
Crazy. Really?
That's crazy version shit. Everyone knows what Sparkle does, and Sparkle does his heroes perfectly well. When he's on the heroes he plays them perfectly well. And this is a team diff showing. I'm guessing, I don't even know for sure. His tracer stats are probably not that good, right? I'm fucking guessing.
I would imagine so.
Huh. Yeah, they're probably mediocre. But it speaks to his quality of player is so high. I believe he could play Zarya. I believe he could play Brig, and like he would have insanely high impact on these roles. Once he has the hero proficiency down, it's no problem for him. And even but aside from that, you can tell their team EM has always played around Sparkle. I think this kid is like, that's like saying Voxel, like I feel like they're in the same vein of these like super limited hero pool wise players, but just incredibly high impact players when they do get to play the heroes that they play. And also that their quality of player is like how they work with the team is just fucking insane. Like I think that Sparkle always had this in him, and it just Paris just had like not as good of a team around him compared to now. And they haven't had as favorable metas, but Sparkle to me is just not like he suddenly got better or something. I think he was always just really, really good, but limited, always limited in his hero pool.
I want to move on to our next award here, which is the MVP of the mid-year, of the mid-season. I'm going to start this off because I feel like it's to me an obvious pick because it's still Fearless. It's Fearless. He's been insane. He is the driving force, the spearhead of the Dallas Fuel. And despite the fact that he was shut down and made to look uncomfortable in their loss, that to me also defines the fact that they had to shut him down so hard to even have a chance at squeaking out that win. So that is just like, he's a phenomenal player. He would absolutely win my MVP of the midseason. What do you think of Avast?
Well, first of all, I agree with the Fearless pick. You could even make the argument for like Sparkle as well on Dallas, but I think there is another tank candidate from a top team that is a very interesting MVP pick, and I think they've been sometimes circled this conversation a lot, but Void on the Dragons. Okay. I think Void on the Dragons, the more I've seen from Void now, and like he was really good when he played previously too, but like the more and more I've seen from this, and like when I watched their success back here recently, and even before that, like Void is just consistently poggers. He's just consistently so good. Like he's actually he has great utility usage, great peel. His time, because also a big thing that a lot of off tanks struggle with is like their timings of like, okay, when am I engaging? When am I disengaging? And I feel like Void always has a great grasp of when he needs to be committing or not committing, which is so important for your off-tank positioning and like the more macro sense of your fights. And the more I've seen for Void, I think Void is like an MVP caliber player.
He was my MVP pick last year, but
yeah, but not that many people echoed that sentiment, right? Yeah, and I didn't. Also, I was not. I don't think I hope I don't remember what I even picked for MVP last year, but I don't think it was Fleta. So we're in agreement there. But the point being is, I think Fearless is still kind of far and away. Like when you see the impact he has on the game, it's kind of hard to argue against Fearless and just the success the team has. But Void has to be given a good shout out, in my opinion, especially considering where Shanghai is currently at.
Yeah. I'll be going with I think Fearless probably has to be it, just the way Dallas will have been playing. But I do think that Void is a good shout, though. To me, I don't feel too strongly about the candidate yet. I think that Fearless, he's still carrying over the momentum from May Melee performance, where he was the MVP candidate by far. But I'm still, leaving it open for interpretation. I got a few candidates like Void, like Fearless, that I think could make a definitive run for it.
Can I interest any of you in my lip wares? That's the other candidate from the Shanghai Dragons that I was thinking of. I thought that Lip's hit scan has been phenomenal so far this season, but also the flexing over to play Tracer, which I wasn't aware was in his wheelhouse at all. And he came out and he played a world-class Tracer when it came to the main melee, and has just been super solid all season long outside of that too. I think he's another person that's in the race. It would just require Fearless to drop off, in my opinion. Where do you stand on this, David?
I think maybe it's just because May Melee was so insane to me, but Fearless is actually just this monster. I think another thing that's not talked about Fearless is just like, it's clear he's in the game, and like there can be coach diff, whatever, but when Fearless is on a team, you can feel him in the game. I don't really know how to describe it, but like as a player, I'm pretty sure they like feel he's in the game when he's on Monkey. And like I think that impact is just indescribable. Shanghai used to be like Fuel like in terms of that they were like a monkey one-trick team, and they always made Fearless's strengths work. The time that they didn't is when they lost in the Showdown, right? Like they didn't do too.
Yeah.
But like, and his Orisa's not good. Like I'm certain of it. His Orisa's not very good at all. But in terms of just like having this raw impact to the game, like Dallas plays that style with Fearless. Like I think the cool thing about Dallas, just wrapping back to like the Coach of the Year conversation, I think Rush has a cool job where he's asked to make something work, basically. And he like put himself in that position. He was the one who gave himself that roster. So that's interesting. But he knows how to make shit work is like the really important of coaching. Like we've talked about it as a team. Sometimes there's comp diff, whatever, there's strategy diff, but there's so much value in making shit work. And they've made shit work with Sparkle. They've made shit work with Doha. They made shit like with Fearless's style as well. They really aren't playing Orisa anywhere. That was never a fucking option for them is to go Orisa. They were on the Winston and the Ryan train. Those were the only two like main things they will play. I don't think Fearless's ball is good. I doubt they'll ever try to play ball unless the hero pools demand it. Because I think that's a weakness of his as well. So, I mean, I just see the impact that he has in the game. The main melee was like a carry performance for sure, but I definitely see merit into just which team wins the most tournaments over the year, like who has the most success. You'll probably put the MVP candidate on that team because I think Void and Lip are both very good players. Fled is a very good player. Like I think all these players are very good, and it's hard to see like who exactly. But that's why Fearless stands out to me is like individually, it is clear his presence. Like I'm really clear about what he is providing to the team, how he, like his style and what that brings to the team. I'm like, really clear on that. Whereas Void, like, I think he's a fantastic player. And I think his player quality is so high. That timing thing that you were talking about, Avast, I think that's really important. But not saying like off tank is like one of the most important positions in Overwatch, but I don't see him like leaving his mark other than just by being like extremely skilled, which is like very valuable in itself. So that's why I like lean Fearless specifically, is because I see his impact into the game specifically. Like I really sense his style. I really sense that Fearless is playing the fucking game, and you have to play against him.
I got mad anxiety when you brought that up because I just like got like flashbacks to playing Overwatch and just overthinking where one specific opponent is on the map at all times and what it's doing, and then you're so distracted you fuck up what you're supposed to do because you're just thinking like, where's Fearless? What is Fearless
what are they doing?
It's such an annoying feeling. I know exactly what you're talking about, so I could definitely see that with Fearless, given how good he is.
Who was that player for you? I'm curious.
Sorry?
Who was the player that you were like ultra afraid of?
I didn't have one. No, I just got the feeling. Like I just got the chills. The chills on my body.
Mine was Defran. Mine was Defran. I remember playing versus Selfless, and I was like, God fucking damn it, where is Defran? Like, where is he now? Like, I remember Defran being an absolute fucking monstrosity to play against back in the day in NA. Guaranteed, everyone in NA at that time was awful, but like, still. I just remember Defran being that player. It's like, oh shit, he's gonna be in the rafters.
You wake up with cold chills all over your body.
Yeah.
The next award that I want to go through, we're gonna go through this kind of snappy, right? It's our all-star team of the mid-season. So what that means is, first of all, the tanks. We're gonna start with Fearless. I'm locking that one in. There's no discussion, boys, because we've already given him most of the MVP votes. The off tank. Does anyone have another one other than Void that they want to put up for the discussion? Because otherwise, I feel like that's like a lock as well, honestly. But are we talking
what
Piggy,
all-star team supposed to do?
What? Sorry.
Is like an all-star team supposed to compete and that's like the best version of this team? Or are you looking for synergy, or just like who's like the top in each role?
Pure theoretical. It's just throw the best teams together. It won't fucking work, but who cares? There's your team. You know, it's like if you just gave people infinite money and they thought that they could just pick out the best people possible. Who would you go with at this point? Piggy, Hanbin, Void? What's the thoughts here?
I gotta go. I think it's a toss-up between Hanbin and Void personally, but I think Void has been so instrumental in Shanghai's success when maybe Fate hasn't been able to do what Fearless did for Dallas Fuel. So in that sense, Fate was the more impactful of the more consistent of the two tanks for Shanghai Dragons, while Hanbin played alongside Fearless in that regard, which was the easier job of the two, in my opinion. So I'll go with Void on this one.
What do you think, David?
I mean, Void and Hanbin, funnily enough, have the same amount of similar amount of experience with Fearless. I think Void has more impact, but I think Hanbin's not too far behind it. I'm not like too fussed between the two, but I'll just pick Void for variety's sake, and Void's my boy.
I'm a Void simp as well. I've been simping for Void for the last 2 years, so I'm going to go with that as well. We'll lock in Fearless and Void. We're going to start to build the old Shanghai Dragons of last year here. Supports as well. Start with the flex support, because I feel like that's the more obvious of the roles to pick from. Now, the normal candidates from last year, people like Violet and Alarm, they haven't been at the pinnacle of tournament championship stuff that's been going on this year. So where are we leaning here? Do you want to rely more on historical? Do you want to rely more on relevancy? Avast, lead us in this discussion. Who would your pick be?
I think it's actually, at least for Violet's case, and I'm probably Alarm falls under that. It's Shock have clearly had issues with their roster and their grasp of the meta, to where I don't think it means Violet is somehow worse now, right? It's more so.
I wouldn't say so.
Because also, is this All-Star team, what meta are they competing in? Like, are we just saying,
get
like,
out of here with your questions.
Okay, sure.
Who knows?
Because, like, if you told me right now, like, oh, we're going back to full-time Zen meta, I would just pick Violet again, right?
It's
probably
for the
would.
Summer Showdown.
Sure.
It's for the Summer Showdown.
But if it's for the Summer Showdown, I'm just going to say fuck it and be like, man, like, it's hard. But when I see, now that they're done with this stupid flex support roulette as well, like, if we're just basing it, I feel like I'm going to have to give it again to, like, I have to give it to, like, Fielder. Because I think, like, because also I feel like before, like, I don't know, they were doing this weird shit with Repel. I'm glad that's over. I'm glad they're done with that. Like, just keep Fielder in at all times. But actually, I could even make an argument theoretically for, like, Twilight to come back in for based on his current year's performance.
Throwing more people in here. This is going to be snappy.
Based off his current year's performance, I could even make an argument for Twilight. But I think overall, still from the consistency they've shown, and like, it's really tough to disentangle it, because, like I said, if it was a different meta, I would pick Violet, right? If it was a different meta, but realistically, I just have to give it to Fielder because it's hard to disentangle it. And I think the meta for Summer Showdown is going to be pretty similar to the meta that we've seen so far.
Okay, you're overthinking it, man. You're overthinking it.
I think we're for arguably good reasons, we're valuing achievements in so far this season pretty highly in that regard as well. So I'll just say it so David doesn't have to, but I think Shu has been impressive so far this season as well.
Okay, all right. I like that.
Iris, Sayaki. Like, I think there's a good bunch of flex support players there in that conversation. Fielder is obviously like the number one pick, and I think I gotta go with Fielder over Violet myself for flex support. So
we have mostly also had Anna and Moira metas so far, which is perfectly Fielder.
Which is why I would not be picking Violet. Like, if you told me it's an Anna and Moira meta, I'd be like, fuck it, I'm not going to pick Violet for that shit. Like, absolutely not. Like, I'd pick a ton of other players.
Yeah.
And I think you have to base the All-Star team based on the performance of this year, right? Like, it's not over history. That's not fair to an All-Star team. Yeah, that's just like, what team would you make? That's great. But, like, I feel like an All-Star team award is different. So, I think Fielder probably deserves that award just because of his, like, team success. My opinion is still he was better. Like, for a lot of these things, like, I still think my players are better, but like that's like a individual dip versus like what performance have they had this year. Like, Fielder has clearly had like really good. Moira is really important, and Fielder I think is actually like the best Moira. So I think Fielder probably would do it. Izzyaki also probably a close second in that regard, because I think he's a good Moira, and I think he's an exceptional Ana. But just based off the performance of this year, again, I'd choose like my whole team if I could.
For the main support role, it actually again gets really weird this year, because your major candidates of people like Moth, he has been subbed out fairly often for Skewed. For people like Funny Astro, hasn't been able to get any playtime this year. Lee Jae-gon is still a decent candidate. There's also who is the? I mean, Jexa has been playing for a top team as well. But again, those are they still have their quite clear weaknesses in terms of how they play. They're not the all-rounded beast players like Funny Astro or Moth that they've shown us before. The other candidate that I was about to say was Nisha as well, who we didn't mention for Rookie of the Year, but has actually been a fucking freak on Brig and Mercy.
I like Nisha a lot. I haven't like kept up with him, but we scrimmed against him once, and I thought his Brig was good. I saw a bot of his Mercy. I think his Mercy is good. flexibility is important. I don't know how good his Lucio is.
I
Like,
have
I'm
not a clue how good his Lucio is. I think he's played like 10 minutes of
the
it all year.
grapevine that
Why
his
would
Lucio
APAC?
is really bad.
Why would Chengdu ever play Lucio though? So
Yeah, that's a good question.
that's yeah.
What were you saying, Jonathan? You heard through the grapevine what?
I heard through the grapevine that his Lucio is really bad. Is that right?
I mean, probably. He never plays it. Why would it be good?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm just like,
which is very strange coming from the long dynasty of Chinese Lucio players. You know, it's very strange, but
a dynasty of Chinese Lucio players.
I'm pretty much sure I got 5 King. Yeah, I got 5. Also, to be fair, Evil Tool was a really good Lucio player as well.
Yeah,
and still is. So
who the fuck are we giving this to? Who takes the support slot? Are we going for like historic Moth, even though he doesn't play everything this season?
DJ Gon is like an obvious answer, I think. But
yeah.
I mean, like, just because Lucio, he's like performance-wise, he's been in the grand finals for these tournaments. He's flexible on Lucio and Brig. I think Jexay is like kind of weak mechanically, is my opinion. So I wouldn't consider him, but you could make an argument for performance. But Lee Jaegon is like a simple answer. But we're kind of just building this like hybrid team of Shanghai and Fuel. So I like Nisha, and I obviously like Moth as well. But yeah,
where are you going?
I'm picking Moth.
Moth.
I'm picking Moth still. I am still. I've held this opinion for a while now after seeing it. Li Jaegong is just better IDK to me. That's how I feel about Li Jaegong. Is that Li Jaegong?
Everyone? I rate the IDK really fucking low. So isn't everyone a better version of IDK?
Well, the thing is, people used to rate ID. So I'm gonna base it off like people used to rate IDK very highly because he got 2 boops once on Li Zhong. And so like everyone's like, IDK is amazing. And like I was like, I'm not sure about this. But like I actually think Moth is still the most well-rounded flex support in the league, even though he's been subbed out. But I feel like that's more to do with the fact of like the specific strategy that is currently ongoing for the Gladiators, more so than his capabilities as a player. And I think if you put Moth on a lot of different rosters, he would still, the intangibles that Moth can bring is like next level comparatively to like a lot of main support players. And I still think Moth is very well-rounded. Even if he's not like perfect. And personally, at the end of the day, if it's a Lucio meta, Moth's never gonna fucking feed. Li Jaegong's gonna feed his fucking brains out and just randomly. He just will. He'll do it. Sometimes he will. Like obviously he can win you games too, but I would always rather have like. And also, we're playing a solo Lucio meta too. You know who else I'd throw out there? I'll just throw it because I just have to say it. Toby. I'm gonna say fucking Toby. I love Toby.
You little simp. Shut your mouth, you little simp.
Fucking love Toby. That guy was the original perfectly balanced main support player.
I'd rather give it to Funny Astro, even though he hasn't played at all, than Toby.
No, I would. The thing is, I love Astro too. He's like top main support, but I would still always put Moth, and maybe not Toby over Astro, but I would still put Moth over Astro.
Maybe this is why Avast only played 1 game, because he doesn't know the Lucio gameplay.
Might be, but I think Moth is still the perfectly balanced main support.
I like
Moth. Incredible.
Yeah. I love Moth, but again, I'd pick all my players.
Yeah.
But that's not fair.
I'm going with Li Jaegong. I don't know about you, Josh, but...
All right. Well, we'll lock it in at Li Jaegong then. And as for DPS, I want to throw out Lip here. I feel like he's been so fantastic this season that I would want him as my hit scan tracer kind of player, but also flexes over to play Sombra as well. He's incredibly versatile and has showcased everything. He's almost everything that Fuel doesn't have right now. And that's, I mean, apart from the Sombra where he and Doha have some serious overlap, sure, but he is coming into his own as just a fantastic, all like super well-rounded player this year. Whereas we already knew he had that Star Sombra and the long-range hit scan to rely on. The stuff he's building into his repertoire this year as well has just been stellar for me. So he would be my pick for DPS, along with probably, I don't even know, maybe Sparkle or something, just because he's been sublime in terms of what his impact on the team.
I don't think you can have anyone
style-defining way.
One of them, right?
Like, you guys, I like Doha more. I know Sparkle has more of a brand name, but I think Doha is seriously in that conversation as well. But maybe that's just my opinion. When they played Tracer Echo, I felt like Doha was doing a lot of good stuff on Echo.
Yeah,
definitely. And
he plays a lot of the harder projectiles like a lot better. I think his Mei is a lot better in particular. Like his Mei was really, really good, and he's also like his Sombra is like really flexible as well. I think I agree with Lip though. people didn't know this before, I think, this year, but he was an insane Reaper player. His Tracer is good, but it was like better than expected going into the thing, and he can also play like hit scan if needed as well. So I like the lip pick.
What do you
Lip
think?
is the sorry, did you say Connor or me?
No, you. The
You,
other side
Jonathan.
of the
Yeah, I think
discussion.
Lip is the one we can all agree on. I mean, he has been spectacular so far this year. I'm actually going to go with Doha, I think, as well here. As much as I like the recency bias of Pelican here,
No.
I mean, it's between Sparkle or Doha, pretty much, right, in that other role. But I like what you mentioned about Doha, specifically in May Melee. I feel like, you know, the competitive Overwatch Reddit, they did some things right in trying to, you know, put the spotlight onto Doha. But the big talking points in the May Melee was Sparkle playing Tracer and how big that was for the Dallas Fuel and how he contributed to the team that way. So that Doha didn't really get enough credit on that Echo role. And it's also sort of has to do with the personality thing as well, right? Like if you have someone like Sparkle who's so obviously happy, just positivity, screaming into the mic on stream, stuff like that, they're naturally going to get the spotlight over the likes of Doha. But I think that Doha is probably the player I'd pick between the two of them if I was making an all-star DPS lineup here. And then everything you said about Lip, he's been phenomenal so far. So I'd go with Doha Lip too.
If the metas have been different, I would throw out another candidate. If the metas have been different, I would throw it out Yaki again. But the metas
has been a beast, actually.
But I mean, Yaki's amazing. But the thing is, I don't think currently the year has aligned for him as well. And I think part of it though is just team oriented. Like legitimately, if Mayhem had a better grasp of the meta, I think Yaki would be in the conversation again. Because Yaki I think he's consistently like, it's just like Yaki go kill and Mayhem wins games like off of it all the time. But I don't necessarily, it's hard to really put him above currently players that have shown consistent greatness like Lip in particular, who would be competing for I guess a sort of similar role, even though he's also a projectile player. He's a hyperflex.
If we want like not Shanghai and Dallas, just because like those are like the really obvious picks because they've achieved the most like accolades throughout the season. It's like really easy to pick them. But like I think like Birdring, for example, has had like a really good season, and like
that's true.
I think like Birdring is very similar to Lip in terms of like how he's showing his flexibility, and like I think Birdring's doing really well.
But
I mean,
again,
it's
a good one, but also
point to the end of the year and see the results, right?
I love how you slip that one in. You're just like, hey guys, by the way, if you're looking for one that isn't Shanghai or Dallas, I've got a prime little.
By the way, don't bench Birdring again.
You.
Don't bench Birdring again, David. Don't do it. I just don't do it. Don't bench Birdring again. But still, that's actually. Oh, if I were to pick my non-winning DPS duo, it would be Yaki Birdring.
Okay, all right. Well, you're going to get overruled then by voting for a third-party candidate that doesn't have as many votes as others. You've just politicked yourself.
By the way, to this Shanghai Dallas Fuel thing we got going on here as well, I think that's just the unfortunate reality of the year as well. Because the Gladiators, as much as I like the players on the Gladiators, you know, I think they've done really well for themselves individually. They've been fantastic. But like, it's just the nature, you know, the way things have gone, where now people are hyping up Dallas Shanghai to be this quote unquote shock Vancouver rivalry, but set in 2021, where you have these two giants in their individual regions, and then they get to face off against each other in the stage playoffs. Like, I think that's just unfortunate for all the other players and all the other teams, really, because these two teams have been so good. But you're right in that Birdring has been really good. Moth is still a fantastic main support. Shu on the flex support role. Like, these players are really insane. And Gladiators is probably one of the two teams behind them who is like this. It's not even worth saying up and comer, but one of the teams knocking on the door, like, yo, we deserve to be in the spotlight too. So I don't blame you, David, for bringing up your players, because
there are a bunch of other teams too. Like, one team that we haven't even mentioned is the Shock. Whenever we've been talking about these other teams too, we didn't mention like Choyobin in the running or Striker in the
doing
running.
Fantastic the year, Striker, Violet. Like, these are still the same guys as last year. Their player quality is insanely high.
Yeah, but Crossday's not on the podcast, so I don't care.
Also, I mean, you can make the argument that Violet is not having a fantastic year because his grasp of Moira is relatively low comparatively to like a lot of his heroes, right? Compared to like Choi or Striker, I would think Violet has fallen out of the conversation just because
App
it's
hasn't
not
been that meta,
particularly.
right?
Yeah, it's just not his meta right now. So it's unfair to really put Violet forward heavily because it's just not his meta.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to lock it in though because we need to move on here. So we've got Fearless, Void, Fielder, Lee Jae-gon. Then we had Lip and Doha. I believe we ended up with. So
or
there's
Sparkle, up to you.
Yeah,
I mean, it would make more sense to have Doha on this roster. So I would like if you're having Lip, you might as well have Doha. So sure, Doha.
Okay, very well. Then that's our 6-man all-star team in the mid-season. I want to move on though to the 7th player of the mid-year award because this was for very, very good players who are not usually in the starting lineup. So they don't have to be perma-benched, but they don't necessarily have to be the 7th player either. But somebody who is coming in to play and has a large impact from a primarily benched position. Jonathan, I want to start with you again. Who's over there as your 7th player of the year of the mid-season?
It's not even fair that David's here right now for the 7th player of the year because there's such an obvious one that's obviously going to be brought up.
I'll bring it up, but it's cool. You go first.
No, Johnny, you go first. Do your topic.
No, don't let me go first. No, I want to hear what these two have to say first.
Mine's not going to be the obvious one though because then I've done too many pandering Gladiators picks already. I feel
well.
So
then
I can't
okay,
pick
let's begin with the
guys.
pandering.
Really, I feel like you go.
No, I want you to begin. I want you to begin.
No, I'll
David.
do it. I'll let David. We know what David's going to pick, so I'll just go first. We know what I know what he's going to say. So I am actually going to pick one that I think has been pretty interesting, but is worthy of the shout out. And I'm going to pick Twilight.
See, that was the one that I was thinking of as well. Yeah.
I'm picking Twilight for my 7th player.
So are you picking here like underrated kind of, or are you picking like?
Well, I'm not picking underrated specifically. I'm simply saying that
team.
Currently for the Shock, if they did not have Twilight, I feel like the Shock would be in a much situation this year. If they did
I think Violet's Ana is not like at least something Krusty likes, and like Ana it's been Ana with Brig, right? Primarily, so I think that's like a very fair.
I think Twilight adds a lot to Shock currently. Like they would not be, they would be in a much worse situation already with their already existing roster holes in their rest of the meta if they did not have Twilight. So that's my pick.
David, who are you going for?
I think you have to look at like distribution of playtime and like how impactful the 7th man is. So I like the Twilight pick. I don't know like what the actual playtime is, but when he comes in, I think he is very impactful on Ana and gives them another dimension that they don't have with Violet. So my picks, I'll give multiple picks just because like I think it's fair. I'm biased towards my own player. I think Skewed has like a lot of great has a lot of playtime, at least like from the maps that we choose and stuff like that. He has like a decent amount of playtime where it's essentially like close to 50-50 with him and Moth. And his impact on Brig is super high. Kind of like the same with Twilight when he gets brought in for that flex support change for that. It's like really impactful. So that's like my best answer. I can give like a non-Gladiators candidate, and I'm not actually sure who to give it to, but I'm pretty sure it's Eddie of the 3 Atlanta Reign DPS. They have like a pretty healthy DPS rotation, but I would qualify Kai and Pelly as like kind of the main DPS in terms of playtime. If I had to guess, like they have a higher percentage of playtime. But Eddie, when he comes in like on the Tracer or on the Reaper or on the Sim or whatever he's playing, like I think those are the 3 main purposes they come in for. Like you can really see him shine. Like Atlanta, like while they like don't prefer the Lucio Moira comp, they had a lot of success because Eddie and Pelly were in the lineup, and Eddie was like doing really good stuff. So, and I think that kind of fits with the 7th man vibe of like you're not always in, but when you're in, you always have like this carry impact. And I think Skewed, Eddie, and Twilight are all kind of in that.
Question: why do you shorten Pelly and Eddie? Where did that come from? Where's that coming from here? I've been here. I thought your mic's been cutting out, but like you just called him Eddie and Pelly. What's going on?
No,
there?
That's just what our team calls them. I don't know. It's just
okay.
I'm like cool with the players, so I just call
you know them like that. You know them like that.
Yeah, I can call him Pelly because that's his first name.
Yeah.
Jonathan, have you found a candidate yet?
Well, I think it's very difficult actually. I think there's not a Rascal type of player to pick this time around, Josh. So I'm a bit indecisive as well.
Rascal's still
copy
in the league,
pastas.
technically.
Yeah, but he's getting a lot of playtime as well, and it's not been that good. Like I've
He was good
sold
in the
my
main melee.
Rascal stock. What?
He was good in the main melee.
He was. Yeah, I mean
He
they
was
had
on
their
his
honeymoon
classic main,
phase.
too.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no, I think I'd go with skewed as well. Actually,
Okay.
I'd go. Yeah, I think I'd
This
go with
Gladiators
skewed because-
bias, man. Am I getting pandered to?
No,
What?
because like legit. I mean, I think Avast has a good point with Twilight because when Twilight comes in, it's like his playmaking ability is insane and he's really contributing. But I don't think you can say that about a lot of other players. While the Gladiators, they have that kind of rotation going on with a very specific purpose between their 3 support players. And when skewed comes in, he's generally been good on the brig as well, making that work. So I think that's, I don't think there's a ton of good examples. Like, could you say Flora from New Excelsior? But,
Sure.
I'm not exactly sure about the
Guangboon
playtime
would
in New
be-
York.
Yeah.
Sure, but I mean, how much have Guangboon played?
You
I think it's played like...
But you can't pick
less.
Guangzhou because that guy's put like negative hours on the field. So,
But that's what I mean. He'd be the 7th player, right? Because Flora and
He
Feather
can't
are
be the 7th player because he doesn't exist
can.
currently. I mean, like he hasn't played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I think
I guess.
I think I'd go with skewed because of the purpose that he serves to the team.
What about Jake? He's a 7th player that's had large
Oh
impact
my
sub again.
god.
Nope, no. Don't tell me the jersey and other things have been a huge.
They've been
7th
statistically impactful at covering up for Juby's lack of hero pool. They have won quite a lot, and there are extra things that Jake adds to the team.
If we only had May Melee, there would be a conversation to be had about Jake as a 7th player, as for the
Okay.
Brigida. But because we have gone beyond May Melee, time has advanced linearly, we
Okay.
can no longer include that.
Okay,
as
you
the
are a big
7th
fan
player.
of the linear advancement of time. It gets
Yes, it
crops
is a
up
very
in a lot of
classic
arguments.
constant here.
believer in it too, for what it's worth.
Okay, all right, moving on from this then. I want to talk about the most underrated player of the mid-year. The most underrated. Who do you guys feel is somebody that people aren't talking about and they need to start talking about this guy? I'll kick things off with, I think, just somebody that we've all mentioned so far, and the community was actually really hot on this player. They've just faded a little, but Nisha. I think that actually just keeping an eye on this player is important because for somebody that would have potentially been in the running for our main support of the midseason so far, on a team that hasn't even been doing incredibly well, there are clips of them performing well from the replay viewer and stuff, and there was a lot of hype for the Mercy play for like a week and a half, but it hasn't been sustained, and I understand that half of that is because they haven't played any Lucio, and we don't know how good that is at all. But I feel like there's a narrative here that needs to be continued as we can progress through the season.
I feel like Nisha has gotten his fair share of the spotlight, though.
You think?
Like like he's underrated, sure. I get
can't
that.
be
He's
both.
not in the. Yeah, but like I don't think he got enough credit early. But he's always hovered around the conversation around like great main support players in the league, and he was forgotten for our Rookie of the Year segment earlier. But I think overall, like Nisha's mentioned a fair amount. So yeah, he's really good, but I think he does get mentioned to the degree where I personally couldn't select him from.
So who would you go with then?
Oh, I just had it up in front of me. I'm actually I'm almost like picking an even more egregious pick here now.
Okay.
That goes against exactly what I just said. But I'm gonna go with Leave from the Chengdu Hunters.
Leave? That guy gets all the hype in the world.
Underrated.
No, he does
What is
not.
he underrated?
He does not get all the hype in the world.
He gets
no,
a
he
lot
doesn't.
of hype.
No, he doesn't. Not to the extent of some of these other teams like Dallas, Shanghai, Gladiators. He does not get the same level of hype, comparing to how good he really is. Like, he's a top 2 Echo in the world. And, like, he doesn't even get mentioned for our all-star team. I think Leave, he's... it's hard to say that he's underrated, but he's really fucking good in the APAC region. And he's been carrying the Chengdu Hunters, not single-handedly, but for a large part this season, when Chengdu has found success, Leave has been very, very impactful for this team. So while he's not super underrated, I think that he's been extremely good in APAC.
Okay.
And so I think he deserves some props there.
All right. Avast, what is your egregious pick?
So I'm trying to think here because, like, are we picking players that have just had no spotlight whatsoever? I'm just trying to understand. I'm just trying to figure out what underrated. What are their qualifications?
You've heard the word before.
Okay, so pick one.
You know what the word means,
Avast. Just no one talks about.
I'll pick my. So I'm gonna pick my underrated player because I defended their stonks going into the season. Elsa, the Chengdu Hunters.
I mean, you've definitely picked someone underrated.
Chengdu Hunters for underrated.
well, no, I'm just picking their player. No, specifically, I would have picked Elsa regardless because people were really low on Elsa at the end of last year for some reason. Even though Elsa looked really, really solid, like multiple times. And into this year, even though Chengdu Hunters are still doing some fucking dpei shit all the time, they're at least Elsa still continues to be like my other pick. If they didn't look so tragic this year, would have been Michelle. But Michelle looks tragic this year, and so I can't pick Michelle. So that's unlucky.
Okay.
But Elsa, I think, has remained relatively consistent. So I will pick Elsa. The other person would have been like fucking, like, I don't know, like, it's tough. It's tough. I don't know.
Who were you about to say? Who were you about to say?
I don't know. Like,
DNN with a K? Or?
it was gonna be like Dawn from the Eternal. But
wow.
I mean, because hear me out.
Underrated.
Yeah.
Hear me out. Because I legitimately think Dawn has a lot of potential and has shown some good moments for the roster, but the roster is overall so poor and has been lacking synergy that it's really tough as a main tank to stand out. So I based off other previous performances I've seen from Dawn, I think he actually has like a lot of good things going for him. He just needs to be molded more and have the right team, like most main tanks do, as they enter. So, but overall, who's at least remained the most consistent having good performance is Elsa. So I would stick with Elsa.
All right.
For my most underrated.
dpei, who are you going for? And tell me why it's skewed.
I'm trying to think. I actually fucking mentioned Mag, and why was that guy not a Rookie of the Year candidate? If we believe Justice can be a good team, I actually kind of forgot about Justice as a team.
He does not look like a Rookie of the Year so far.
I think the kid's insane, but maybe he hasn't shown it in matches. But I see the kid, and I'm pretty sure this kid's a phenom, like, for sure.
Yeah, he has the talent. He has the talent for sure.
He definitely does.
He just hasn't shown it yet.
But I think for underrated on that team, I think Assassin doesn't get talked about enough. I think it's a huge upgrade from Tuba. I don't know if Tuba's fucking playing ever. I'm pretty sure it's always Assassin. I think Assassin, like, I felt the difference between Tuba playing and Assassin playing scrims, and I feel like they've headed in the right direction of always playing Assassin and always playing Decay. I feel like they kind of hit the nail on the hammer by those two. I think Assassin also with Mag gives them so much coordination. Your flex DPS and your main tank having coordination is like so important. At least right now with like it being Echo and Monkey, like it's really important. I think Assassin on that team is really good. I think there's even I rate like Closer highly as well. I don't know how he's been doing like stats wise or anything, but I think he's a high quality player. I also think like again or biasly, like I think my team, like the people not talked about on my team, like I don't know if she was talked about, but like Muze in space, I think will. Again, this is just based on how the second half will go, but and I'm pretty sure we're winning this next tournament. We're winning this next tournament.
Okay, there it is.
So, so our stocks will be way higher. You guys will have like some between Summer Showdown and Countdown Cup episode, and then you'll talk about underrated players, and then Gladiator players won't even be mentioned, I swear. But I think Justice has like a lot of underrated players. And then also like you look at Atlanta too, like I think Gator and Hawk have been doing really well this year. And Iris and Masa have been doing really well this year too. But
Iris.
You usually talk about
Iris is a great pick.
Really most improved player too, but we saw so little of him from last year. I feel like that wasn't a fair like most improvement. We barely saw him.
Iris has made a big difference to the Atlanta Reign though. I mean, just the integration towards the end of the season wasn't all there, but now that he's properly with the team, he is making a huge difference compared to the beginning of the season last year where they had Dogman and it just didn't look like it was at the same level. And this time around, Iris has been really good. I I'd be down for him as my underrated player because I forgot that he was even a candidate because he's that underrated in my head. But yeah, that I do.
It's a good shout.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Do people talk about Gator? Because like I think he's been doing really, really well. The metas have favored him, I think. Or like he's been showing his color a lot with, I think his Orisa is really great, and I think his Ryan's really great. And when he showed that off, like, I think he's a really great Orisa, really great Ryan. So I'm like, and Atlanta has like shown those colors throughout the season. I feel like he's been doing really well too on that team.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's like talked to.
I don't think he's not really talked up very much
He's
at
not.
all.
I mean, the thing is, it's tough for me to at least put him in like at least on the improved player category because I thought he was great last year on the metas where they played Orisa already. So like I didn't really rate him coming in. Like he didn't do anything differently.
Anything different, yeah.
And like when I've seen him on the Winston, I would argue he's looked a bit better because his team's looking better. But I wouldn't say he himself individually has changed
like
much about his Winston play.
Yeah.
But like his Orisa was always really good, and so was Ryan. So to me, I wouldn't put him on the most improved player list simply because he seems to be performing exactly as I thought he was going to on those heroes.
But I put him in the underrated list for sure.
That's fair.
Okay.
Yeah, underrated is fair.
I have one more award that I want us to hand out for the mid-season, and that is the biggest second half of the season comeback or flop. Essentially, this is the award for whose second half of the season looks most different to their first half. And that could be because they got way better, or it could be because they got way worse. And that it could be because of the eye test, or it could be results-based as well. It might be Houston are 7-1 at the beginning, and they flop towards the end. It could even be Dallas make both of the stage finals at the beginning, but they miss out in the second two, right? So that would be a bit of a flop compared to the incredible first half of the season that they've had. So this is very much a question that's based around their current first half of the season performance. And I understand it's a complex one. Haven't give you too much time to think here. Jonathan, kick us off, please.
Biggest second half comeback / flop. Now, this is a difficult question because I think we have a lot of teams that are like in the mix, you know, like they're sort of middling, you know, so they're not really deserving of a comeback if they actually start performing really well in the second half. And there are a lot of teams that are like, you know, kind of okay as well, that if they were to lose a few games, it wouldn't be a big flop. It wouldn't be like a big disaster. That said, though, can you say that I'm actually going to go with the Florida Mayhem here. Can you say the Florida Mayhem? They're 4-4. Okay?
Which way are you
They're
going?
7th in the standings. They're 7th in the standings.
There's two options to go here, Johnny.
Are you going? Are you going? They're going to come back or they're going to flop?
Well, I'm going comeback here.
Okay.
Player or a team? I got a bit
team.
confused.
Sorry, it's team.
Yeah, because I think Florida Mayhem, they're very like middling right now. Obviously, they're like decent May Melee, but they only get a single league point from the May Melee playoffs. So even though they did make it, they only got an extra win, and that's all they had. And then I had a pretty disappointing June Joust, you know, where they didn't even make the knockout matches. So I think that Florida Mayhem, I could see them go for a bit of a run here. They had a pretty shitty hero pool, like they were pretty uncomfortable, it seemed like. I think that Florida Mayhem, they could have a strong second half. Now, my other team that I was going to pick here, and I don't want to hog them all before I let you guys speak, but I could actually see maybe the New York Excelsior going for a bit of a comeback because they're so underrated now, okay? Even though they made the APAC playoffs, they're 3-5. They're third to last in the APAC region. And I think if they just elevate above and beat the likes of like Hangzhou Spark, Chengdu Hunters, maybe the Philadelphia Fusion, Seoul are gonna Soul, like New York Excelsior, if they improved in the second half, could theoretically qualify for one more stage playoffs, or maybe even two if they get really lucky and somehow, I don't know, miraculously improve. So those are some out of left field. Maybe.
I'm trying to figure out, so was there a reasoning for New York, or you're just like, they could do this? Because the sun could explode any second too. And like, so I don't, so what's going on? What's the reasoning here?
I think they have, I'm not standing on the most solid ground right now. I'm standing on like mud, you know? It's not like sinking sand, Avast, but I'm standing on mud right now. It's not cement. It's not mountains. It's not ironclad. I don't even know what ironclad is. I just said it. But it's not the most solid ground. I feel like New York Excelsior, given how hyped up they were in the preseason, they have individual players like Flora, like Jonak, and Yakpung and Bianca just set this team back like decades of just like
you
technology
can't be saying they
advancements.
set them back decades. The
This
game hasn't been out
has to be the
decades.
most brutal episode yet. David's out here just like, yeah, I think this player is dog shit. Like we have Yak fun of Bianca. Like, damn, we're brutal today.
No, I feel like Yakpung and Bianca, like I really do feel like they've been a weak point for this team. And if they just step it up a little bit on that Monkey and Diva, I do feel like they could be at least very competitive in the APAC region, especially with how some of those teams have been struggling. So, yeah, I think New York Excelsior, given how poo they've been the first initial stages, yes, they made a knockout, but it was, or like they made the playoffs, but it wasn't impressive at all. So I feel like they could potentially be a bit more dominant in the APAC region.
Can I just say that I hate the APAC region as a whole? Because
we all do.
Shanghai is the only good team, and then the rest is just like Pandora's fucking box of like what's gonna happen this week on who's competent and who's not. Yeah, but I think that's a good pool to pick from, is like these really inconsistent teams. Someone has to be the least bad in that region, I think. So
yeah, I mean, yeah. You guys go ahead. I don't want to hog the microphone because I think
two
there's a lot of
completely different picks
to go with.
I have two totally different picks from anybody that you've mentioned as well. The two teams that come to my mind, the number one is the Houston Outlaws, right? They're 7-1. They've had an easy strength of schedule. You would expect them to decline more as the season goes on rather than continue a... what even is that? Is that like 80% win streak, essentially? What is 7 out of 8 as a percentage? I can't do math. Something high anyway. Something really high. So... overall, you're expecting them, in my opinion, to be probably a team that struggles in the second half of the season. For a comeback team, I'm thinking the Guangzhou Charge. Now, that isn't necessarily based on Sungwoo themselves coming into the head coach position, but I feel like this team just has way too much talent to be complete shit forever in APAC. And they have been. They've been awful. And even though I wasn't high on the Charge this season, I didn't think they'd be down at the absolute bottom. So even if they get some stuff together, their second half of the season should look vastly better than the first half did. How many wins do they even have? They have 1, 2. They can't have very many.
They're 2-6, and New York are 3-5.
Yeah,
so
2-6. Like, I feel like that team, all right, maybe they can't turn it around and go 6-2, but they can at least go... maybe they can't at least go even, but they could try to trend towards even in the second half of the season. They have at least the talent to go even in APAC in such an inconsistent region. And so if they get it together a bit, they're my comeback team.
I'll go next. My comeback is also Mayhem. I think there's no reason. I think that team still has enough solid fundamentals. They have good enough players to where they should probably do much better. They've been, I mean, their May Melee was relatively fine for them. They struggled a bit, but they picked it up towards the end. They just played tough teams. And then this last summer, and then June Joust, the meta was just really bad for them.
Yeah, it was.
Honestly.
Look at that.
So I think that Mayhem should be fine throughout the season. I mean, unless it's like a collapse of sorts where they just can't get their shit together. But I don't have any reason to doubt Kuki so far on the coach to like at least teach them some of the fundamental stuff they've been missing. And the meta should be better. Flop teams, now I'm going to have a slightly different flop team, even though because they already kind of are of a flop, but I think they're just an overall flop for the whole year. The Boston Uprising. The Boston Uprising, I think people, most noticeably Jonathan, was like huge on Boston coming into this year. And I was not. I was like, this roster doesn't look bad, but I still don't see how they're going to like fix their shit, especially once they don't have a Tracer player anymore when they lost Soon. And Gable, she tips the scales a bit, I think, for this team. Because I do think he's way better than Punk on the majority of the heroes you're going to be playing, other than maybe Sigma. But I feel like he could probably learn to be better on the Sigma as well. And because I think he's really talented. But overall, the amount of talent on this roster should not signify where they currently stand. And also, they had an extremely hyped Korean contenders coach coming in, and I feel like that is a situation as well that has not panned out.
Yeah. Okay. dpei, what are
But
you
that
going
was
for
for
here?
flop. You said flop, sorry.
That's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
I flop,
flop.
because some people should be expecting them to do better because they have Gableshi full time now. And like
But
they have a
essentially,
more
what you're saying is that they're going to continue the same.
I think they're going to continue to flop. I think they're going to do it the way of the Dogecoin. I think they're
Okay,
crashing.
go the way of the Dogecoin.
I think it's over.
That is phenomenal. All right, dpei, what are you going with?
Yeah. I think the Los Angeles Valiant will be
Okay, yeah. Sure.
They'll just come back 8-8, make a run through the playoffs, just dominate these tournaments. Yeah. I think for the people, there's people who's just over-indexed, and if I had to pick one, I agree fully that it's the Houston Outlaws, right? Like something's got to drop from 7-1. Like that's just too high of a win rate given like kind of where I expected you to be. But I don't think it will be like a huge downfall. Like so I'm not sure how big, but it's probably the one with the biggest room for variance, right? Given that you're 7-1, you can vary from that. If you even go 4-4, that's a flop. That's a 3-game
Right,
div.
right,
So
exactly.
I'm down for that pick just because they're indexed really high. I think we're gonna fucking dominate this next tournament. My opinion. I'm telling you, we've made the coaching changes. We got the style going on. Like
Okay.
I think it's us, but unbiasedly.
Just checking my
Unbiasedly.
PayPal. Sorry, just checking my PayPal, making sure that you made the deposit. Oh yeah, carry on. No, carry on.
You guys will sound crazy when we're just dominating this next tournament. Anyways,
But I feel like I can't say comeback.
No, you guys have still been
guys,
doing pretty
'cause-
well. Like 6-2.
that's how hard we're gonna dominate the. There can't be much.
So it's just-
8-0,
winning every stage, because that is a comeback from 6-2.
Yeah,
like,
we're
you guys,
gonna win the next two stages.
the thing is,
Boom.
I would already define the Gladiators story in the first half as a comeback because it went from 2-2 to 4-0. That is a comeback story. But from 6-2, there isn't that much room to actually like. You're not under indexed.
Sky's the
I don't
limit.
feel like that's
This
even
guy's
feasible.
the limit. Sideshow. The sky's the limit.
Okay.
Okay, let's hear your
No.
comeback.
I think the comeback. I don't know if this counts either, but I think Justice is like this close to being actually good. I don't know if they actually have the tools, but I really think that I believe highly in their player quality. I don't really know too much about their coaching staff, but I don't really believe in their coaching staff. So that's a problem. But when I want to say a comeback team, I don't want to say like a mediocre team is going to be slightly less mediocre. I want to like give you guys like a top end team that will actually be like good and like perform well in these tournaments. I don't want just like this shitty team will turn into a less shitty team. That to me isn't like a good enough comeback. That's why I think Justice has the potential of like being these tournament winners if they figure shit out. But I don't have much faith in them. I don't like believe in them, but I also don't know what's going on internally. So
Yeah.
But they have the player quality. I think for like making these huge runs in these playoffs.
Yeah.
So I want to
look
give
lost.
like a top end team. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I like it. There's your predictions for the future, fans of the Overwatch League. And now for real predictions, ones that you can stake your life on. You can take these to the bank because this isn't just some idiots picking them. Wait, no, it is some idiots picking them. We're gonna pick them. We're gonna start with everybody's pick for the first match of the Plat Chat top 5 pick'ems of the week. It's the LA Gladiators against the San Francisco Shock. Run the graphic, Kurt. It's the Gladiators v. the Shock. Okay, dpei,
by the way.
dpei and Jonathan have gone with the Gladiators, with myself and Avast going for San Francisco. I want to start with Jonathan before we get into David, because I know that David's going to gas his team up.
Are we even allowed to ask David the question?
I don't even know why. There were two
We didn't even
predictions
ask
in here,
him.
and I was like, man, what am I supposed to say?
Well, I want to see. Here's the thing, though.
That's
I want to hear the reasoning for Jonathan before I hear the propaganda. So I want to hear, like the analysis and then the reasons why dpei is confident, and then we can talk about why we think the Shock is going to crush dpei's spirit.
Okay.
So Johnny.
Okay. I think the San Francisco Shock, they had a pretty grand old time in the hero pools. They did. They were playing Washington Justice. I was threw me off for a bit. San Francisco Shock. They play like mini goats. With Winston. I think that they benefited massively from that and looked good because of it. But I think moving away from hero pools, they're actually going to decline a little bit in performance when some of these compositions open up. And also, I'm on the Gladiators train here a little bit. I think they're a really good team. I think they're a well-rounded team. I think they could play many different styles. The tempo is there. The aggression that dpei has talked about now for like 2-3 seasons is really looking good. The synergy is there. So I think the shock coming off hero pools, I think they're going to struggle a little bit. I think they're vulnerable, and Gladiators and his hype man are going to capitalize on that and strike them early here in the qualifier matches. So I got the Glads.
Okay, well that sounded enough like propaganda. So, dpei, why are you confident in being able to take it over the shock? They're still a scary team. They're 7-1 overall when it comes to their regular season. They really haven't lost games until it comes to beating the giants of whatever that meta is.
There's only, in my opinion, right now, there's only 3 that I think can watch league. Just like they have the championship mental. I think it's shock just because of their history. Shanghai and Dallas. Every other team I think is like mentally weak. And like we need to be in that tier. I think this will be the match that's like really exciting for everyone to watch. But like I think just going into the reasons why we're gonna win, I've changed up the coaching style going into the second half of the season. Like stylistically in our play, not like how I coach, but like stylistically in our play. And I think it'll be really clear. We're gonna be like a really exciting team to watch, I think, is what I can say. But like it'll be really clear that we're gonna have like something that we go into and just really believe in this. And like Johnny said, we have flexibility, which is great. So we can change any comp we want and we can still like maintain that style. I think like that is something that was clear to me from the Fuel success is like they maintain a style kind of throughout. And like we were kind of like fucking around with comps and like just kind of figuring out where our holes are, where our strengths are. And I think we're halfway through the season now. I have a really accurate gauge of like what my players' ability are, but I also just don't give a fuck and want them to play the way I want to play now. Like I think I've catered to how the players wanted to play for a little bit, and I don't really care how the players want to play. Like I want to play my way and have them execute. So I think like you're gonna see a very different style of Gladiators going into this second half of the season, I think. So I think it'll like show in this series. Hopefully it'll show and be clear in this series, but I think that's like the logical reason as to why.
Okay. Cryptic as well, because you don't want to reveal too much. Are we talking compositional or play style generally?
It can be both. I can kind of like go into it more as the season develops. But
All right. Well, we'll have to catch up on that one. Avast, I don't know whether you feel the same, but I still have a lot of respect for the Shock in terms of just their ability to get results when it matters. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-map series or a 5-map series, they're going to be able to grind it out and get the victory. And I think the Gladiators did very well in the June Joust, particularly because they were able to demonstrate a large amount of flexibility. I don't know what the meta is going to look like as we return. I haven't been watching scrims or anything like that. But in my head, if I imagine it similarly to the direction that the main melee was going in, now that doesn't take into account the patch changes and stuff, but they don't seem to be vast changes in there. But if I'm thinking about this from the main melee point of view, I think that in those kind of metas, if we allow the Shock enough time to figure out what they want to do with Violet, they should be considerably better than what they showcased when it came to their May performances. I think this team is a sleeping giant, and the second half of the season is where they start to warm up a little bit more. So this isn't necessarily me just believing in the Shock for this game. I actually think for the rest of the season, the Shock should really be waking up.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Krusty's gonna get the chicken dinner chug jug with Andy, the wacky credit card numbers on Andy Miller, the back of Andy Miller's credit card at the end, and they're gonna achieve victory. And also, I personally do think the changes are gonna change them for a bit, because it's specifically the Echo changes, because I don't think Shock has understood how to play around Echo very well so far. Mm-hmm. And I do think the Echo change, and also the Moira, which is technically it's a Moira nerf, but it's like sort of a buff, but it's also kind of a nerf. So I think the Moira changes and the Echo changes are both relatively big for the Shock, because I think those are two areas they've been struggling on. Even though Nero themselves had pretty relatively solid individual performances, I don't think they've understood how to play Echo particularly well around it. In addition, I think generally it takes some time for the Krusty Crack Pipe to cool down and like they figure out their player rotation and how they want to actually set up. And if they just commit to a proper player rotation, they look a lot better. To me, this isn't going to be like a shock difference of like, oh, they're beating Gladiators because they're just a way better team. It's more so they're going to hone out the fact that some of their rough edges, and it's going to be a close series with Shock just going back to Shock caliber.
Okay.
Much.
All right, I want to move on to our next match of the week that we've got coming up. This is over in the APAC region. It is the Seoul Dynasty playing against the Chengdu Hunters. And here we have Chengdu across the board, other than David, who picks the Seoul Dynasty and walks off in disgust. I think he had something.
No, he said he had to go get something. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Why are you guys
for like half an hour?
Why are you guys comfortable in Chengdu?
I don't trust the Seoul Dynasty. I don't know about you, Avast, but I feel
that's it. That's literally it.
Yeah,
that's it.
I honestly, I just feel the same way. I think that Chengdu also, maybe without hero pools, will now be a little more comfortable with what they're able to play. They looked, the whole of APAC looked like a mess in the June Joust, but I'm anticipating it returns back to some kind of.
I think if Chengdu is just allowed to do what it wants, they will look like a pretty decent team. Like, if they have no constrictions at all, if they're just able to go full poly bridge and just build these monstrosities of compositions, like, that's what I feel like Hunters, they're going to succeed, because they still have not reined in any of the silliness. I thought they reined it in when they brought in Gaga and they brought in a functional main tank. And I was like, okay, silly levels decreasing. Like, here we go. We're getting less. But then they're like, no, fuck it. Among just coming in still. And we're doing like other weird shit. Gaga's going to do weird shit. And like, okay, well, like, I don't know. I mean, they literally brought back their enabler with Ray. So I think this team just needs to have no restrictions. It needs to be a wild stallion roaming free with no boundaries.
A wild panda stallion. Yes.
So, and who knows what David says, but should we move on?
Yeah, I'm going to move on here because I believe that David picked the same team in the next game as well, which is the Hangzhou Spark against the Seoul Dynasty. Back-to-back Seoul games this week. And again, he is the sole person going with the Seoul Dynasty, while the rest of us go with the Spark here as well. This is a clear difference in direction. Again, it's not that I don't think Seoul are going to be good. It's just that I have no faith in them being able to perform. And I do actually think the Spark... So the Spark were trying to play double bubble when it came to the June Joust. So they just want to play that shit. They want to put Gushu and Winston. They want to have Shy play the Ashe or the Echo. That's where they're going to be good. So I think there should be a stage to rejuvenate your faith in the Spark. David, you've picked Seoul as the only person in both of their games. Why do you believe in the Tiger, in the Korean Tiger? Why do you believe in Gesture?
6-2, no. Like, I know like their quality of the game that maybe doesn't look that good, but I am a big believer in Gesture and Profit. I'm a big believer in their players, like their key players, that they always have like match effectiveness. Hangzhou is the opposite of that. I really like their roster. I think with Avast, I rated their roster highly, but like it's hard to utilize 12 really good players. Seoul like have more clearly defined rotations. I just think Seoul has like a good team, basically. I don't feel super strongly about any of the APAC results because, again, like, fuck me if I know what's going on in APAC week to week. Like, they are so confusing. I've stopped looking at them. Like, last year I looked at them a lot. This year I've stopped looking at them. But I think Seoul has that player quality, and like I pretty much never want to count out Seoul in a match, especially versus Hangzhou, who I think is kind of been the definition of mediocre.
Sure. Let's move on to the next game, which again is another Gladiators game. We are taking on the Los Angeles Gladiators against the Paris Eternal here. And everybody has gone with the Gladiators. Okay, more simping on the episode.
I would have made an argument if it was still previous meta for Paris, potentially, but not this upcoming one.
Avast, sell me the win conditions for Paris. You haven't predicted them, but I want you to just give me a lowdown of what would Paris have to do in order to win this match.
I mean, the big thing is I don't know their own win conditions now, honestly, because Echo's out of the pool, and that's what they look so good with the Echo. Well, I mean, it's not going to be out of the pool.
It's not out.
But it's been nerfed, and I'm not sure. I haven't been sitting in scrims, right? So I don't know what the usage rate is. David, could you give us is it too much of a sneak to tell us if the Echo usage rate is still high?
It's playable. That's
It's
pretty
playable.
Playable.
much. Yeah,
That's
like
not high praise to me. That's not a high praise comment. Is it when you say it's playable? A lot of things are playable. So I think, to me, when I hear that Echo is playable, I think that this hurts Paris very heavily. So I look more like, okay, is our tank lane going to have the synergy we want? Probably not. We have I think their backline's decent, honestly, right now with Con and Redro, even despite the internet issues. But then you've removed like the most impactful part of their DPS lineup. So I really don't know what their win condition is.
Fair enough.
I just don't know what it is.
Fair enough. That's perfectly fine. Let's move on to our final game that we've picked out. It's the Boston Uprising taking on the Florida Mayhem here. Boston Simps in shambles because we've all picked the Florida Mayhem. Even Jonathan, who is the biggest sympathizer of the Boston Uprising, can't justify this decision.
Nope.
Jonathan, is this just Mayhem getting back in their groove?
Yes, this is the Mayhem getting back to their groove. I wouldn't even be surprised if they just came out and play like stage 1 stuff. No? Why would they not?
Sure. I mean, just like Yaki back on his Tracer, just OG playing Winston, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I definitely think at least now when Hero Pulse is gone, and like maybe David disagrees with me here, I feel like teams will just default to whatever their comfort zone is. Like I could even see some teams with the Hero Pool reintroduced, maybe even like leaning back to some of the stuff they played in June Joust if it really worked for them. I don't have a team on the top of my head, but it depends on how strong Tracer is.
So they'd go back into Rush from May Melee, or they go back into
No, yeah, they go back into like May Melee stuff, or if there were like a really good June Joust team like the Atlanta Rain. I guess the Atlanta Rain figured out in the end though that like dive is ultimately better than double shield compositions.
But I mean,
and all
they
that stuff.
They could try and play like Moira Lucio comps or something
With
like
a Sen,
that.
you know,
Some
maybe
teams
we'll
were
see how
playing
much play Sen gets, but I think teams that had success in the May Melee, like the Florida Mayhem, which we're talking about now, I think they're going to go back and play like the May Melee stuff because that worked for them. And, you know, it will be a bit like we're going back in time when it comes to the compositions and stuff like that. So I think Florida Mayhem will be a big benefiter of that. I don't know about long term, like if that's going to work long term. We'll see what the meta will be now when the likes of Echo are nerfed. But I think that at least starting off strong, the Florida Mayhem will get a win here.
All right. Nice. We have one final segment, which is, of course, the most important segment. And what is that? Whisperings coming through the air conditioning units.
Oh, really?
Bren is speaking to me from upstairs. Let me tap into his energy for Bren's Player of the Week, presented by T-Mobile. And you know what? I don't even have to listen to Bren for this one because it's a slam dunk. It's an absolute easy pick.
Yeah.
There are no problems in the slightest with selecting this one because, in fact, there's 2 Bren's Player of the Weeks this week, presented by T-Mobile. It's Kevster and Sab. They recently got engaged. I mean, I think it happened yesterday. Huge congratulations to the couple. Obviously, friends of the show. They work on the Overwatch League as well, or at least Kevster does. And Sab used to be around it all the time as well. They went out on a sailboat. They proposed. Kevster's looking all right, I suppose.
I like that photo.
I mean, look at these photos. Look at Kevster in these photos. He's so funny, man. I mean, this is just a lovely, happy one. But there was another one of him proposing that was I just found incredibly funny as well. He's a wonderful gangly human.
Gangly human.
No, I mean, I couldn't be happier for them as well. That's there's a cute picture of Arya, their cat, as well. Yeah, it's they're very much an esports power couple for sure, and they're very happy together as well. And I wish them all the best for the future too. Plus, where were they? Where you're just running around on a sailboat? And what's with boating in the off week?
Sailboat.
I mean, they're on a fucking sailboat. This is like the Overwatch League casters have turned into the most middle class people. The desk is just rampant with middle class sailboating. Apparently, we've got Jonathan going cruising in the Atlantic Ocean with T-Mobile, and then we've also got Kevster just proposing in the middle of who the fuck knows where, some body of water as well. I'm a working class man. I'm afraid of drowning.
It's underrated, man. Yeah. Land is overrated.
Water is underrated. The key component for life on Earth is underrated.
Yeah, people don't talk about it.
all of life possible on the planet that we live.
I meant water as a habitual means of living. Like you can be on the water, like you can be on the ocean.
I don't think it is underrated. I don't think it is either, Jonathan. I think there's been a very strong maritime culture throughout all of human history. In fact, so I don't think it's underrated. I think people have been sailing boats for a really long time.
In this day and age, in 2021, we don't talk about sailboats and casual boating enough.
Mate, it's all we've talked about. It's all we fucking talked about.
I don't have actually boat. I don't have what money do I have to boat, Johnny? Don't talk about boating. I have no fucking money to boat. What are you talking about? Talking about boating enough. What's next? I'm gonna get my helicopter. I don't know, dude.
People don't talk about helicoptering enough.
How? No, I'm just.
I looked into buying a boat. It costs a lot to have a boat. It's like very inefficient.
Oh, yeah,
you have to like pay for a license.
You looked into buying a boat again. Where are people getting the money to go out on sailboats all the time?
I've never sailed once. It's crazy.
I just have the boat.
Yeah, I don't have a car, but I was like, you know what? A boat would be. A boat's like a car on water.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
You can live on a boat.
There was a TF2 streamer, actually. There was a TF2 streamer that lived on a boat, and I was always confused as to how. Yeah, how did he have internet connection? I don't know.
Because if you live it was a boat house specifically, and so because there are boat houses, and so if you live on like a pier or a wharf, I believe you can get Wi-Fi.
Internet though. Yeah,
no, you can also you could run Ethernet theoretically, but I think it was Wi-Fi.
You could use T-Mobile's 5G connection as well, and it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, how do you think Custer uploaded those pictures? By the way, he's taking a selfie of him proposing, and then he's out in the middle of, I don't know, where was he, in the middle of the Pacific or something, just taking a cruise out there on his tiny sailboat, and he's just, got T-Mobile 5G, pops him up online, everybody's congratulating him. I'm sure that's exactly how it went. But there you go. That's a very, very obvious Bren's Player of the Week, I feel. And a nice way to round out an incredibly long mid-season episode. Sorry for stealing so much of your time, David, but it is interesting to be able to catch up with you as well. I believe that we're going to have some of the Gladiators players on in future back chat episodes when we launch our interview series, but we'll have to work out the logistics of that. In the meantime, subscribe to the channel.
One more thing, Josh.
Oh, there is one more thing.
One more thing?
There is one more thing.
We get more members?
An important thing. Welcome to member. And we did get some more members on the channel, actually. So we want to read them out. First of all, Tomo Jono, welcome to member. Blake Van Pook. Van Pauk?
Welcome to member.
Blake Van Pauk, I'm going to say there. Barnett, Charla Von Charlie, The Law, by the way.
That's Nerdy a large Spoink. Member, Giga member, tier 3.
Giga member, Charla Con Charlie. These people, man. Giga member and Psycholab as well down at the bottom. Giga member as well. Tier 3. Appreciate it. Virtual Tibbs and Nerdy Spoink. Welcome to member as well.
And the law, by the way.
Very much appreciate it. Wait, these are
There's
all
more?
new?
Oh,
more.
God. Oh, God. There's another Giga member with Matthias.
All right.
There's a member tier 2. There's a large member.
Corey Beauchamp. Paul HO24. What is that the chemical formula for? Suds and Bobbles, welcome to member all of you. And then Matthias Marley. Avast?
Welcome to member.
Yeah, the Giga member thing. I wanted you to say
member.
Yeah, you're not on the ball, man. You're not on the ball.
I'm not. Okay.
Jimmy the Rabbit, Zachary Amaris, and... Yes. Welcome to member. Large member. Andrea Da Silva, another large member. Thank you very much. Mark Brooks, welcome to member. Nathan Loon, Jared O'Loughlin.
O'Loughlin, yeah.
Jared O'Loughlin. I think that's probably an Irish name. Possibly how you would pronounce it. If I've butchered any pronunciation of your names, by the way, just rinse me in the comments section. I am an uncultured Philistine, as we know from many episodes of this.
Welcome to member.
All that is left for me to say is thank you, David, for joining us again. And we'll have another episode coming towards you next week. Same time, same place on the Plat Chat podcast channel.